since there's been a lot of pushback, the conversation never came up. I was somewhat disappointed. I mean, that's the most current issue of the day. And I would have thought that my friends, my colleagues would have brought up that question. But no. I can't tell you the reasons why, but it is what it is. I'm sure the Prime Minister would have loved to expound on the reasons why Mia is coming to Dominica. And some may say the reasons why she should not come to Dominica. Unfortunately, I was not at a news conference. Maybe next time. I'm expecting Glenroy Coffee at 1:30 this afternoon. But before I do, and we'll continue that conversation sometime later, we have a full statement from the Dominica Bar Association as it relates to events of May 19th, 2025. Or March 19th, sorry, March 19th. So I'm going to listen to a full report presented by Richie Farrell on a statement from the Dominica Bar Association about the events of the March 19th protest action. Richie Farrell.
May 25th, 2025, written by the executive of the Dominica Bar Association and approved by the president of the Dominica Bar Association, Noelise N. Knight Didier, reads: The Dominica Bar Association issues this statement to express our grave concern regarding the events surrounding the March 19th, 2025 protest against the passage of electoral reform bills in Parliament, including the arrests made and charges brought in the aftermath. While we acknowledge and regret the considerable time that has elapsed since the subject incidents, it is nonetheless important for the Bar Association to issue this statement to the public in keeping with the Bar Association's constitutional mandate. Further, the issues are still live ones. The delay in the issue of the statement was due to several non-related reasons, but it has afforded the Bar Association the time to carefully consider the law, the relevant facts, and the circumstances as far as we have been made aware, and to hold discussions with members regarding the issues arising. We have also had sight of statements made in the media by the IACHR, the government, and the learned director of public prosecutions, among others, as well as the sentiments expressed by some members of the public. We understand that the conflicting positions in the public sphere may be puzzling to some, and the DBA hopes by this statement to offer some clarity and perspective to the public. At the outset, the Dominica Bar Association wishes to reaffirm the right to peaceful protest and always calls for adherence to the rule of law. We do not condone violence, rioting, or any form of unlawful behavior, but we remind all that freedom of conscience, expression, and of assembly and association are fundamental constitutional rights of every citizen of Dominica. By their nature, these rights include the right to peacefully protest, the right to freedom of expression, and to peacefully assemble must be recognized and protected in accordance with the principles of democracy and the rule of law. The constitutional rights. Section 11 of the Constitution of Dominica states as follows in its entirety: protection of freedom of assembly and association. Section 11, subsection 1 states, except with his own consent, a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of assembly and association. That is to say, his right to assemble freely and associate with other persons, and in particular, to form or belong to trade unions or other associations for the protection of his interests. Subsection 2. Nothing contained in or done under the authority of any law shall be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention of this section to the extent that the law in question makes provision to A, that is reasonably required in the interests of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, or public health; B, that is reasonably required for the purpose of protecting the rights and freedoms of other persons; or C, that imposes restrictions upon public officers that are reasonably required for the proper performance of their functions. And except so far as that provision, or as the case may be, the thing done under the authority thereof is shown not to be reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. Therefore, there can be and there are indeed legal restrictions to the constitutional freedom, but these must be reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. What this means is that the restrictions should make sense, be fair, and be acceptable to most people in society that values democracy. It should align with the principles of fairness, rights, and freedoms while ensuring the well being and safety of everyone in that society. Essentially, it's about finding a balance between individual rights and the common good. The Arrests and the Riot Act. Weeks after the March 19th, 2025 protests, we witnessed the arrest and charging of numerous individuals, including political activists, as well as one of the lawyers actively representing those previously detained. These charges have reportedly been brought under the Riot Act, an 1897 act amended in 1939 and 1974, the constitutionality of which warrants serious scrutiny in our modern democratic framework. The Riot Act, entered as Chapter 10.2 of the 2017 revised laws of Dominica, defines an offense under Section 4, which states that if 12 or more persons being riotously assembled together to the disturbance of the public peace refuse to disperse after being lawfully commanded to do so, they are guilty of an offense and liable to punishment. Further, Section 6 of this Act outlines the manner in which law enforcement may respond when individuals continue to unlawfully and riotously assemble after a command to disperse. Section 6 ought to be set out in full. It states as follows: whether persons so unlawfully, riotously, and tumultuously assembled, or 12 or more of them, after the proclamation is made in the manner mentioned above, continue together and do not disperse themselves within 1 hour, then it shall be lawful for every magistrate and every justice of peace or the senior police officer in the area, and for every police officer, constable, and other peace officers of the state where the assembly is, and for every other person as shall be commanded, to assist any magistrate or justice of the peace who is hereby authorized and empowered to command all persons of age and ability to assist him therein to seize and apprehend, and all persons so commanded are hereby required to seize and apprehend the persons so unlawfully, riotously, and tumultuously continuing together after the proclamation is made, and forthwith to carry the persons so apprehended before a magistrate or before one or more justice or justices of the peace, in order to their being proceeded against for each offences according to the law. And if the persons so unlawfully, riotously, and tumultuously assembled, or any of them shall happen to be killed, maimed, or hurt in the dispersing, seizing or apprehending or endeavouring to disperse, seize or apprehend them by reason of their resisting the person or persons so dispersing, seizing or apprehending or endeavouring to disperse, seize or apprehend them, then every such magistrate, justice of the peace, police officer, constable, or other peace officer, and all persons aiding or assisting them in any of them shall be free, discharged, and indemnified, as well against the state as against all other persons of, for, or concerning the killing, maiming, or hurting of any such person so unlawfully, riotously, and tumultuously assembled as shall happen to be so killed, maimed, or hurt, as mentioned above. The Riot Act is, therefore, one such piece of legislation that purports to restrict citizens' constitutional right to assemble. But there is no doubt in our minds that the Riot Act in its present form begs the question whether it is reasonably justifiable in a democratic society as required by the Constitution. We are aware that the constitutionality of the Riot Act is currently before the court, and this question will be determined. It is a fact that the United Kingdom once had a Riot Act in similar terms to Dominica's Riot Act, but the United Kingdom has long repealed this act since 1967, and in 1986 introduced the Public Order Act, a piece of legislation addressing riot, among other things, that is more palatable, acceptable, and justifiable in a democratic society. The Public Order Act does not permit or excuse the entire host of actions permitted or excused by Section 6 of our Riot Act, and also clearly defines riot in terms relating to violence and fear for safety. Such a clear definition is noticeably absent from Dominica's Riot Act. As stated above, the question of the constitutionality of the Riot Act will eventually be determined by the court. In the meantime, however, it is incumbent on law enforcement to carefully ensure that it does not act in a manner that unduly curtails or aims to curtail citizens' rights to assemble and their freedom of expression. The framers of our Constitution, in their wisdom, not only subject restrictive laws to being reasonably justifiable, but also the thing done under the authority of the relevant law. In other words, a law being on the law books does not excuse actions supposedly done pursuant to that law if the actions are not justifiable in a democratic society. The Dominica Bar Association further notes with concern that the arrests made in the aftermath of the protests may have the appearance of being politically targeted. We have been reliably informed that some of the persons arrested and charged under Section 4 of the Riot Act were some of the organizers of the protest who, though initially present, were not present after the order to disperse was given by the police. It is not anticipated by the Act that individuals will be arrested from their homes long after the riot for merely being suspected of involvement in the planning of a protest gone awry. The act criminalizes the ongoing act of rioting, not protest organization. The arrest of individuals outside the framework established by the Riot Act raises even more serious legal, constitutional, and rule of law concerns. Of particular concern is the arrest and charge of Attorney at Law Ronald Charles, who, after the protests, addressed persons still assembled in the vicinity, expressing his assurance that he would provide legal assistance to individuals facing potential conflict with law enforcement. This lawyer is also the vice president of the United Workers' Party. When the arrests of the protesters began, this lawyer was in fact one of two counsel representing almost all these persons. Then came his own arrest several days later. Was this the best exercise of police discretion? The arrest of a lawyer in such circumstances raises serious questions about respect for the sanctity of the right of citizens to legal representation. Such actions could be perceived as a deliberate attempt to intimidate legal professionals, particularly those who may be inclined to represent political activists, and thereby obstructing access to justice and undermining the very foundations of a fair and equitable legal system. The Dominica Bar Association firmly believes that the right to peaceful protest and dissent is a cornerstone of a free and democratic society, while the maintenance of public order is undoubtedly a legitimate concern. The response to these protests must be proportionate, lawful, and respectful of fundamental rights. The use of outdated and potentially unconstitutional legislation and the targeting of individuals, including legal counsel, cast a shadow over the principles of due process and the rule of law. Further, the actions of some police officers on the day of the protest itself cannot be ignored. Were the actions of officers of the law who were filmed throwing stones, assaulting citizens, etc., investigated and dealt with by the internal investigative and disciplinary mechanisms of the police force? While the actions of citizens who engaged in such activities on that day ought indeed to be investigated and addressed under the appropriate laws, more so ought to be the actions of the police, the guardians of the law. The electoral reform laws. With regard to the electoral reform laws, the subject of the March 19th protests, the Bar Association has already made considerable contributions to the various issues. And these contributions are in the public sphere. For completeness, though, having regard to the purpose of this statement, clarifying conflicting information and giving perspective to the public, we make the following very short observations on what are now the new election laws on some of the more topical issues. There was considerable opportunity given for the public to air their views on the proposed laws and the issues. However, regarding the round of consultations hosted by the government, no official data-based report was issued. In the interest of transparency, such a report ought to have been issued. The new laws do provide for voter identification cards with photo ID and access to state media by all political parties. The new laws do provide for a process of cleansing the voters list by voters reconfirming themselves on the voters list, which process is to be done by an electronic system. Until reconfirmation has taken place, the present voters list is the effective list for any elections. The new laws do address bribery and treating as our previous laws did. However, the new laws do not frontally address or prohibit political parties paying for the airfares of voters to return home to vote. The new laws do not provide campaign finance regulations and or limitations. It should be noted here that in the electoral reform survey conducted by Sir Dennis Byron, the majority of participants felt that for Dominica, there ought to be a cap on election campaign expenditure. Sir Dennis included campaign finance restrictions in his recommended draft laws. The new laws have removed the 5-year absence from the state disqualifier for remaining on the voters list. This removal essentially permits a voter to remain on the voters list for life, no matter their residence elsewhere or length of absence from the state. The new laws do improve on the autonomy of the Electoral Commission by establishing an allocated fund for the commission over which it will have full control administered by the chief elections officer. The new laws do not take on board Sir Dennis's suggestions for improving the impartiality of the Electoral Commission by establishing broader criteria qualifications that fall to be considered when appointing the 5 members of the Electoral Commission, which he proposed in a manner that does not appear to be in conflict with the Constitution. The new laws do not address term limits or a fixed date for elections. These are not issues that were heavily canvassed by citizens prior to or during Sir Dennis Byron's consultation and report. In conclusion, we urge all Dominicans expressing their constitutional right to assemble, to do so peacefully, and to abide by lawful orders issued by the police. We urge the Dominica Police Force and prosecutors to exercise their wide discretionary powers with utmost circumspection and to ensure that all actions taken are in strict adherence to the Constitution of Dominica and international human rights standards. It is imperative that the authorities act in a manner that consistently maintains and promotes a free, civil, and democratic society where the voices of all citizens can be heard without fear of intimidation or reprisal. We call on the government to urgently review and update the Riot Act to address its glaring deficiencies and issues or areas needing greater scrutiny and clarification. The ruling of the court on its constitutionality need not be waited on. Finally, the Dominica Bar Association calls for transparency and accountability in all these matters and urges a commitment to upholding the fundamental rights and freedoms guaranteed to all individuals within our nation. We stand ready to assist in ensuring that the principles of justice and the rule of law are upheld in Dominica. In issuing these calls, the Bar Association will also continue to do its part to educate and guide the public in this regard. We will soon host our annual Law Week, which will focus on constitutionality and the rule of law, and during which we intend to hold a public panel discussion addressing the topics of peaceful protest, the right to assemble, and the offense of riot. We look forward to the presence and participation of all concerned. Thank you. From the Dominica Bar Association, dated May 26, 2025. Again, this statement was approved en masse by the executive of the Dominica Bar Association.
All right, Dominica, you heard the full statement. Of course, we'll review. I'm sure there are other lawyers who will give the input, but a very yeah. So we'll review. I'm sure the full statement, very very lengthy there. A lot of food for thought, huh? Those of you who have complained that you're not hearing Q95 on the Flow channel on television, please call the provider, Flow, and tell them that you're not receiving Q, your favorite station. But there's nothing we can do from our end, so please call Flow. We're gonna come back. We're gonna come back right after this.
Now available at ESA Trading Limited Showroom Department, a wide range of household items and accessories. Plates in porcelain, ceramic, clear and cordial. Bowls in glassware, plastic and porcelain. Pot sets and frying pan sets. Glasses for all occasions. Knife sets and cutlery. Water jugs and storage containers. Wooden spoon sets. Dish trainers. Chopping boards bath towels, shower curtains, bed sheet sets, curtain rods, living room sets, recliners, and dining room sets, mats and rugs, and so much more. All at unbeatable prices. Visit us today. We are located at the corner of Kennedy Avenue and Dame Eugenia Charles Boulevard, Roso. ESA Trading Limited, making a difference for you.
Dominicans, Dominicans, enjoy your property, protect your property. You homeowner and businessman, protect your property, enjoy your property. Can't wait for the hurricane, can't wait till you flood again, can't wait till you fly out, all your business coming out. Remember, no insurance company will insure your property when a storm is approaching. Get ahead of the hurricane season. Insure with a company who gives you the assurance of payment for your valid claim. Come speak with us today at the New India Assurance Company Limited, upstairs AC Shillingford and Company Limited, 24 King George Street, Roso. Bring along an up-to-date valuation from a qualified engineer and get insured today.
Going shopping for farming supplies. So I ask him, what are you doing inside Bloomberg? Do you have a farm? He tell me, that's how it has sort. I've been married 37 years. Look at my money farm. He said, no, not woman, like land for farming crops. And then you understand, Bloomberg is the most affordable on island. Knapsacks starting at only $57.71. Elsewhere, it's $300 plus. Cutlass seeds, seeding trays, nursery pots, sales of potting mix, all at way better prices than anywhere else. Fertilizers, 3-in-1 multi-tool, and so much more. Located on Federation Drive, Goodwill. Second property on the right after the Valley Link Road and on the corner of Drury Lane and Hanover Street in Roso. Bloombox. Let's bloom together.
All right, Dominica, we're here. We're here. He's a man of his word. So Glenroy Coffee is in studios with me for the next hour and a half. And he's gonna take all your questions. He's not shy. I call him the caretaker of the Roso constituency. And Mr. Peter Prosper, if you're listening, you can give him a call too. I heard you had many questions about his statement in recent times. Peter Prosper from the other radio station. Here's the same Peter Prosper on a Sunday afternoon. If you disagree, then give him a call. And just to put in perspective, I just wanted to play that statement that seemed to have created some stir for the weekend there. Speaking last week, I think it was last week, Wednesday, Mr. Soso Coffee said this. As a matter of fact, somebody called and said, I would like to hear that statement over and over again. So somebody's in agreement and some people are not. So let's listen to Soso Coffee for the final time before we take some more questions. Again, let me just say good afternoon to you, Mr. Glenroy Coffee. How are you, sir?
Yes, good afternoon to you, Matt. Matt, you look well, and good afternoon to your many listeners, both here and abroad. You know, when one is called to duty, you either reject or accept. So I have accepted the invitation to be here this afternoon.
All right. So listen to Soso. They spoke on Wednesday. Listen to him.
Joshua when he was in the United Workers Party, and to be honest, I see a man who is full of energy, and he continues to do what he has to do. In fact, I still believe he still has a lot of political capital in him that one can use to elevate himself politically. And the humanitarian side of Joshua, as I always say, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I've always admired this because he's a person who cares for people. But he said something very important earlier in the discussion about imposing oneself on persons. And for the past election cycles, we have noticed that the Labour Party has imposed itself on Dominicans. Dominicans really do not want the Labour Party, but they have found a way to impose themselves on the people of Dominica. Case in point, you know that the Labour Party has been rejected by the people of Dominica, and they have resorted in bringing Dominicans from overseas to fill up the gaps, to give them win where they know they are not sufficiently strong. By and large, I will tell you straight, and Josh is correct, you don't have to have rocket science or even data to actually come to the conclusion that Dominica is in a mess. In fact, I was at the credit union earlier today, and I picked up a book, and when I look at some of what is written there in terms of the delinquency rates, you see that a lot of persons are unable to pay their loans, and the delinquency rates continue to increase in terms of numbers. So it tells you that's a bad sign, that the financial indicator here tells you in that report that there are a number of persons who cannot meet their monthly commitments, more so their mortgages. And so we're in a serious situation. And so I believe I want to join the chorus to say that we must do more. We must create that unity and to win hearts. And I'm happy that we have Dr. Fontaine at the helm of the United Workers Party, a man who I see has a vision, a man who I see interacts and brings people together. And in fact, just as I was walking, a guy stopped me and he said, look, I hope you all are not trying to get rid of Dr. Fontaine, because I'm telling you, it's because of him I'm still in politics. He's fed up with Labour, but he feels that hearing Dr. Fontaine is about the people's plight, and he thinks he wants to work with Dr. Fontaine. But he also reminded me that we must also take up the mantle of uniting all those that want to come on board, and let's work with them and move Dominica forward. To win this government, we have to unite. Failure to do so in the opposition, we are going anywhere. Take that to the bank, we are going anywhere.
So I just want to ask you a question then. Is it Joshua Francis you would welcome in your team? Yes? As a force, a coalition force.
Let me tell you something. I just told you what is part of the strategy. If Josh feels he wants to unite with the United Workers Party and let's move forward in unity, that is the way to go. If Bosso and all our persons, all about and all our interesting Dominicans feel they want to unite with the United Workers Party, we go forward with a strategy and let's do it together. Collectively we will win. But that's how people do it, you know. One farmer cannot sustain a market, you know. You have to have a number of farmers with targeted production, a targeted acreage, so that you can sustain volumes. Failure to sustain the volumes, you lose the market. So I'm saying we have no time for further division. We have time for unity. We have time for coming together. We have time for one agenda, and we have time to govern this country, to bring some restoration to the people who have been suffering, and to bring a better quality of life for Dominicans. That's what it is. If you look at all of the records all over, you go for sponsor from the private sector, they will tell you straight they are unable to give because they're not making. Not their fault. It's not their fault. The economy is properly whittled, and we know that. It's down to the bone. And it's not people's fault that they cannot contribute. Their corporate contributions have dropped. And so unity is it. So yes, Joshua has been part of us. And if Joshua feels independently wants to come, I don't see why we cannot welcome Joshua. Or anywhere, in fact, too, any other person. I'm not about this one and that one or this one, you know. Even though my politics over the years, I've tried my best to bring people together. I'm one man. I don't cross people. I don't pass people straight. I don't choose who I speak to or who I communicate with. No, that's not the answer to politics. We are going through a fight, and if we have to win that fight, we have to collectively come together and win the fight over everything. Put our differences aside and let's go forward.
Let me ask you a question. So my final question: What do you think about your performance of your MP in Roso Central?
Well, you know, Matt, I would like one day that you'll invite me so that I can actually give you a synopsis of what is transpiring in Roso. In fact, we have seen so many things and heard so many things that have been happening and yet nothing's happened. In fact, I was reading a report some time ago, and since 2019, you talk about a better Roso, and Great George Street would have been one of the envious streets in Dominica, particularly in Roso. And up to now, we have seen nothing. I mean, I will not now tell you, I'll not take up the time to try to dissect everything, but I can tell you, the paragraph of Roso is not a performer. She has not performed. She's yet to bring a plan and bring. In fact, by the way, 20 years of Labour Party, we should not be talking about a plan for Roso, and we should be actually talking about the performance. You know, if the work was put into high gear and the work was done and the paragraph performed, right now I'll be telling you what I see the paragraph has done. But because nothing has been done really, you cannot now point your finger and say that has been done. And by the way, I'm not saying the areas have been improved, but the general consensus will, and if you take it, we will point to the fact that Roso is still in a bad state and maybe even a worse situation than it was before. But I will tell you straight, you can only get a transformed Roso, a deep, systematic transformation of Roso when the United Workers' Party will take the reins of government. You know, and that's what I can assure you. But as we speak, the paragraph has nothing to show, and all we know now is party. If the Labour Party was engaging young people into skills training and to ensure that persons were well equipped with the necessary skill set to get them geared to actually transform this economy, it would be a better deal than to have in party. In fact, I can tell you, one of the greatest successes of Labour is about partying. Let us go and soca rumba, wine and drink rum, and that is what they can see that has been their biggest achievement. So, Mark, there's nothing to shout about, but one day I hope that you can invite me to tell you exactly, or to tell you what, in fact, Roso is required of, and what can actually transform Roso into the great Roso that we all look forward to see. But as we speak now, there's nothing to show right now, and the parliament should be ashamed after 20 years of Labour Party. And even she coming in, not too early, but has about 2 terms, I think. She's about 6 years now.
I heard that this morning talking about housing developments around the country.
Matt, let me tell you something. The history where I live right now is part of a housing scheme, you know. The Freedom Party made houses, and I took a 20 by 20 house and transformed it to a 30 by 40 up and down.
Uh-huh.
So the point is, and many other persons have done that too. So it's not the first time we have seen, housing schemes. The UWP have a housing scheme not too far away from me, from where I live. All successive governments have had the chance to actually put housing schemes. The difference though was that we paid for our own, and we were able to expand. They gave us a core house, and we were able to put it to the comfort that we wish to live. What we have seen now is that the Labour Party is strangling people, giving them houses, apartments, and not giving them titles. And whenever they call a rally, all the young people just knocking the door and saying, "You know ready yet? You have to leave your half-cooked rice on the stove and get in Lago immediately, or if you are not seen, the house is threatened to be taken from you." That's not how you develop a country. You must empower people. You must make people use their assets to empower their children, to do well for themselves, to empower themselves, and to transform their lives. Don't control people. And that's what they do. Impose themselves on people so that they can eternally control them. So there's nothing to shout about the housing scheme. I mean, Roso people have been the biggest recipients of houses outside of Roso. In fact, we have over 3,000 voters in Roso, and almost half of that doesn't live in Roso, or even more. So, the records have shown that a lot of housing development has taken place with previous government. The difference with that right now is that this government is playing a fringe game, but it's just to control. My recommendation at the time was that you could give people houses free on a merit basis. You do what they call a needs assessment. If you have the elderly and so forth, cannot afford to have a job, then of course it's okay. When you pass by the apartments, the kind of vehicles you see, and people who can afford, I'm not saying that they could meet all the expenses, but at least you say, look, put something down and you have a revolving fund. So as the government collecting money from what they contribute, what they will do is to match it up and expand the housing development. That's what you do. That's how you develop a country. And not just talking about give somebody a house. No. We are used to that. I just give an example of how we have developed ourselves. Every house that was 20 feet by 20 feet in Paradise Valley. Come and look at the development, people's development. So if at all it was a 2 million investment, now it's right now a 40 million development. How it happened? People's development, people's power, people's empowerment. That's what you do.
Dominica, you heard the preamble. So again, I'm just going to say good afternoon to Glenroy Coffee. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you, Matt. And as I said, good afternoon to your many listeners, both here and abroad. It's a pleasure to be in studios with you.
Always a pleasure. But I'm going to hit the ground running, and and just be spontaneous with some of the questions. And I'm going to open up the floor, if you will. So others who feel they need to question you, will feel free to do so. I just want to ask if and I've heard the comments from the other side. They don't think that has been fair to Melissa Skerritt, as it relates to her assessment and her performance in Roso. What is your response?
Well, Matt, let me say that I take ownership of my statement made. I stand by it, and as we speak, I still stand by it.
You still stand by it?
Yes. So for those who are offended, for those who took offense to what I've said, I think there's a better way to get at me, to just come and show the records. So, or we could have a conversation, we could have a debate. And that's how you get ideas from people, by just interviewing them.
So you prefer to debate Melissa Skerritt?
Well, it's a question of debate anymore. I mean, come on, we talk about Roso. I've lived in Roso all of my life. I was born and bred in Roso, and I know about Roso. But for my critics, let me just give you a snapshot of what I meant by nothing has been done.
Okay.
And I want at the end of everything that I've said that we will either judge it as being progress or regress, or we can simply say whether it's progression or regression. Matt, for example, the government boasts about the promenade they made in Roso. Beautiful place, beautiful augment of the area. It looks good, nice washing facilities. Prior to building this promenade, you had 25 persons with small businesses along the riverbank, employing at least 3 persons. Right? 25 by 3, 75 persons were employed. Now they have reduced it to 10, maybe with 1 person, or let's say 2 persons, 20 persons. Matt, how do you rate this? Progression or regression? Because
I have to be fair, we see less activity on the promenade.
But best, you have less of businesses there, so it means that less persons are employed, less spending ability of the people. So at least we know now for a fact, that's what we're talking about. Enough has not been done with respect to this. But I commend the work that was done in terms of augmenting the area. But the point is, in terms of comparing what has existed in the past, Matt, we are saying that more businesses were along the riverbank, more persons were employed. To me, what they have done was not to improve the lives of persons, but to regress persons, because at least now, 15 more persons are not there. Right? They reduce it to 10 areas where you can do business and not employing very much. We go again. When the Labour Party came in government, Roso Central has always been with a health center. Is that a fact or not? 20 years later, Roso Central is without a health center. And I'm not talking about the neighboring health centers, like one that is located in Newtown. Now they tell Roso people to go up there, and one at Woodbridge Bay for the people in Roso North. No, I'm concerned about the elderly persons who have to leave their homes, seek a bus to go either to Woodbridge Bay or to Newtown. That is regression. And you must ask yourself, is that progression or is this regression? Because you've met a health center there. In the past, Matt, before persons who visited the health centers, they used to go with their medical record books. Today they have to find bandages. Today they have to find plasters and other medicines. That was free before. All of these I'm talking about were given at the health centers. Today, they have to bring their stuff. Is that progression or regression?
Regression.
Well, you need to answer the questions for us to hear it. The government lent $41 million from Saudi Arabia alone, right? But sometime in November last year, and by the way, I believe in community work. I believe in Kudma work. I believe in Kudma work. People have to come together. That's how you build community. It's all good to showcase individual skills, and people who have skills, you can organize them in a group to come and showcase their skills. The real work, Dominicans are out of it. But when for community work, for volunteerism, they're asking for us. But yeah, what is bad about it? $41 million you've borrowed, where you took a loan, but yet you're on River Street, fixing 30 feet of sidewalk. But if you got a loan to repair roads and to make roads the envy of the Caribbean, what are you repairing a sidewalk 40 feet? I just measured it, Exactly 40 feet of sidewalk they attempted to repair, and it was still not done properly. In fact, they covered mostly all of the manholes. that people use, where you could go and to open and to check to see whether or not you have an overflow. So what are we talking about? We must be able to identify things in Roso that are not being done or incompleted. I heard up to today, when you put on the Prime Minister with respect to the interview, you heard the Prime Minister talk about the Arak House of Culture. I was amazed, I was appalled when I heard the response, when he was asked about certain things, and he brought it in. Since after Hurricane Maria, this place got struck. Dominica was devastated, including their House of Culture in Roso Central. They had insurance coverage for this. They got insurance money. 7 years later, what has happened? Are we progressing or are we regressing? These are some of the fundamental issues that you must be able to address and to measure to know whether we are moving forward or whether we're moving backward.
Somebody just text and said, what about the lights at the Windsor Park Stadium?
Well, I didn't finish with that. I'm coming. Some time ago, no one is criticizing the stadium. At least we have a stadium. But the government seemed to be boasting all of this, and that's water under the bridge. But you remember when the United Workers' Party actually had plans for our stadium, it was a multi-purpose stadium. It was supposed to have been a multi-purpose stadium. We've played more than 11 sports at the Windsor Park at the time. Today, we can only play one sport at a time, either football or cricket. I'm saying the government again has lost an opportunity to make Roso again part of being the envy of the Caribbean. And Roso is not even the envy of Dominica itself. Roso is not even the envy of Dominica itself. So I don't know what they're talking about. Even the lighting. So long we have lost international games with respect to cricket. As a result that we have not had lights for a long time. It's been a year now. Look, we still do not have light. Matt, I was in St. Lucia when St. Lucia was preparing for the international cricket games. The stadium in Bossejou, the Sami cricket grounds. At the time, they were just repairing the stadium. They were removing the old seats to be replaced by new seats. They were doing an overhaul of that stadium, and the game was about 3 months away. So don't tell me prior to the game you were not instructed, you were not informed that Dominica had to get games. And because of the inadequacies, because of the non-preparation of this government, the government was unprepared. They could not have hosted not a one international match, causing a number of persons who rely on economic gains like sport events to make a money and deprive them that. Are we progressing or are we regressing?
Are you regressing in that way?
Right. So, and there are a number of things as we go along, I will get to it. So we mustn't, and as we speak, we talk about housing development. I spoke about it. I don't want to repeat what I've said, but it is obvious that in the past, successive governments have moved forward with respect to housing development. We have seen housing schemes all over, and I always maintain Roso people, they have been fortunate enough to be the biggest recipients of this housing scheme because, as you remove people from Pong, a next generation come, they get an opportunity. But the difference with this government, we used to pay for it. We paid for it and got our own titles and we were able to develop ourselves. What happens right now in 2025? You gave me a house just for a vote and no titles. Are we progressing or are we regressing? We know that empowerment is about empowering people and giving people their titles. If you own the house, then that house supposed to belong to you. You're supposed to have some documentation stating that this house is your house. And so if that cannot happen, the government should not be talking about giving to anybody's house because you have not empowered the people. But interestingly, the system of receiving houses in the past was that people got their titles. Today, we are not getting titles. Are we regressing or are we progressing?
Question. Well, I'm going to allow, of course, I have many questions, but I'm going to allow Dominicans to question so at this time. Glenroy Coffee is my guest for the next hour and 15 minutes. Are you there, caller? Caller, are you there? Hello? Something is wrong with our telephone there as it relates to the international line. And please make your comments quick and ask your questions so we can allow more questions to be asked. Huh? Be short and quick. Hello, talk to me on the telephone, yes.
Hello?
Oh, yes.
Yes, good afternoon, General Soso. Good afternoon, Matt.
Good afternoon to you, my dear.
Matt, I want Soso. Maybe they doesn't hear my voice when I call him. Maybe they will hear Soso voice. I want Soso to ask them to take out the green thing in the gutters in Roso, the grass, clean it, and look about it. It is upsetting. Clean the gutters in Roso. When Soso say it, they might hear. Thank you.
All right, thank you too. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Well, yes, and we continue, but I'll come to that with
Yes.
respect. Because I heard now they're talking about rat bait stations.
Yes.
I mean, Matt, the last I've heard about that is that when I was in the banana industry, part of moving forward with certification of farms.
There's nothing new there.
There is nothing new. I mean, come on, we've done that in the banana industry. Part of going forward with our certification program,
Yeah.
we had to ensure that we allow the farmers to set rat baits in strategic areas so that we can curtail on the infestation of rats or rodents, if you want to speak so. But listen to what was the problem. We did not actually look at the root cause of the problem. Because when you set rat baits, you know what is happening? You are setting food for rat, they will come. Even you catch one or two, I mean, some will die 2 days after because of the toxic chemicals that are in the rat bait.
Mm-hmm.
But it is futile in exercise. I'm going to tell you why.
Tell me.
Now, later we found out that the way to keep the rats away was to allow the farmers not to keep food after they harvest in their farms. And we've had a lot of experiments conducted. In fact, we've done that where after harvest, we have the farmer to clean up, take out his waste, like his single bananas or what they rejected, and clean up from the field. And right away, instantaneously, we've had a reduction in rodent. And so that's where the control comes. So if right now Roso is infested with rats, it is not rat bait stations that is going to solve that are going to solve the problem. They must remove the rubbish in Roso. They must clean Roso, and the greening of the gutters in Roso, as the caller rightly said. These are some of the things that you have to reduce the infestation of rats. And when rats eat poison, they do not stay there and die. They go back to their habitat. So don't think you're going to get the rats. And you know what you have compounded the problem with? The stench in Roso. So I want to just at least say that if it was an initiative by the PAREP, it is not a new initiative. We've known that in the banana industry, we have been ahead. So if someone told her about it and she's done that, well, let us see the results. I hope for results. But the root cause of the problem is that the high infestation of rubbish will bring rats. And that's what you have to reduce. Take the rubbish in time and move it to the landfills, and then you'll reduce the incidence of
So
rats.
don't be defensive, be proactive.
You have to be proactive. And when the Prime Minister talked about it, earlier again, I listened to him. I didn't talk about, we have to contribute. We're talking about, disposal waste and waste management and so, and we are not playing our active role. And we're not talking money. Mr. Prime Minister, after Hurricane Maria, you have gotten the opportunity as a government to request what was needed for the country. Mr. Prime Minister, I don't know when last you have been to the landfill. I am a regular visitor of the landfill. You have one caterpillar that has been rented for a long time. And when that caterpillar no longer works, the landfill is on a pause. You must talk to me, Mr. Prime Minister. Don't tell me what you ought to do. You should have done it. The landfill needs excavators, and that should have been done long ago. And most of those, the rubbish carts that take up the rubbish, they are privately owned. You have to be able to boost up solid waste and to encourage solid waste to do better. They cannot do better without the tools. Just like how you criticize, and you have criticized and continue to criticize the public works for poor quality work because they have not had the right tools to do the work. So when you would have provided the tools for the work, then you can talk. Because if the tools are not being used properly, then you can lambaste people. But in the absence of not providing what is necessary to do the work in a good state, you should not be in any position to criticize.
So what is the solution? So everybody's been talking about it. We seem to have a serious garbage problem around Dominica.
Yeah, and we have to move beyond the garbage management of it. We're talking about right now, we are now exposed to pest and disease and leptospirosis. And by the way, the incubation period in for diagnosing someone with leptospirosis, it is 21 days, the incubation period. So which means that you could be affected, you could be infected with the disease, and it's only 21 days later you would have known. And by that time, probably, if you have a weak immune system, then you know you would have been deteriorating. Luckily, some persons have survived. when they were diagnosed with
Right.
with leptospirosis. So we know what is happening. So even that, and even the guys, or the guy who I saw put in the rat bait, my very good friend, even he wasn't completed in terms of his attire. Where are your gears, your health and safety gears? You are putting rat baits almost with your hand. You are inhaling the chemical. Huh? And you are placing it almost in a place that could expose the human beings and so to that. And not only that, even when you place it for rats, persons who stole their pets or pets who go astray can consume the toxic chemical and probably have them killed. And so we must be mindful of what we do. It is not just coming and boast about it as an initiative. Is it good? Is it the applicable thing? Well, the applicable thing as I speak is to remove the rubbish in Roso and environs. That's what you have to do.
On the telephone, hello. Yes.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Coffee.
Yes, go ahead.
Roso,
Yes, go
how
ahead.
you doing?
Yeah,
Yes,
Let me
sir.
tell you something. When you're talking about housing, I have to hear you say that the Labour Party give people housing. They didn't give people housing. They put people to live in a house. Because if you have a house, it's not, you cannot take a loan. You cannot go to the bank. You can't do nothing with that house. You can't even insure it yourself. It's not your house. Somebody put you in a house. Because if you have children and you die before them, they might change the lock on them. So not guarantee that your children remain in the house. So never say that they give people. They put people to live in a house. Okay, bro? Thank you.
Action.
All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
they put people in a house. And Matt, as I speak, I just left Baba State. And Matt, they boast about, you see, when I say nothing is being done, I'm serious about that. Look at what he's talking about. We have been talking about upgrading of playing fields for a number of years. And that has been something ongoing. Now you have an increase in NEP workers. Why is it that you have the Buffer State Savannah in such a state? Just visit Pottersville, not too far away. Half of the Savannah is occupied with materials.
For Chinese.
And the other half, you don't want to know about it. So when we speak, we know what we're talking about. So I don't mind your store, but the other half where you can squeeze in a small goal, like a cricket, well, keep it up now. Look at it. And when people look, this is the good thing about Dominicans. We have our eyes to see and we have our ears to hear. So those who think that I am ruthlessly attacking the government on its policies, no. The government is directing its policies to things that are not important. All this government has wasted its time doing is giving people fat. And if you notice, they have not been paying attention to the real development of Dominica. Instead, every day is a politics for them. So they have lost sight of developmental work for Dominica. And they have now, the Prime Minister now is saying, government cannot do everything. But Mr. Prime Minister, your government, you and your government, you are posing as if that you were the savior to everything. We always know that government cannot do everything. But when you posture yourself as if that you can do everything, then today look at the results. You realize now you are financially constrained. And then you've come to the realization, reality has struck. And so now you understand what is happening. But a typical example again, when you talk about regression, how it is that passport vendors work and their projects are always completing and government work cannot complete. Matt, is that progression or is that regression? And so it's on the premise of these things that have come to the conclusion that the government seem to be gravitating towards regression as opposed to progression.
All right, here's a comment there. Somebody says, to make Roso NVS, it has to be welcoming. There's a permanent stench in the Roso that must be addressed. Uneven and broken pavements must be repaired. Open and exposed gutters must be covered and flushed regularly. Garbage must be disposed of regularly. Homelessness must be addressed. Clean and paying derelict businesses. That's just for a start. That's what.
But that's the situation. You see, if a progressive Roso would have a snapshot of what I'm going to say there. Matt, to be honest, there were a number of reports, a number of consultations have been held in the past. And we've known, and some of it are still very much relevant to the development of Roso. We cannot lose sight that even though something was broadcast, let's say, how many years ago, that is still not relevant. But not as we speak, right? I see we have not resolved half of the problems that exist in Roso.
After 20 years?
After 20 years. And the government has nothing to shout about. Then it does repeat itself about we are going to do. It is not about going to do. It should be reporting to the people of Dominica. That is why we say no to them again. They have expired. This government, in fact, Roso is wounded. Roso is actually wounded. But let me go a little further. But in terms of the parking for Roso, at least we have not identified, or although a spot was identified somewhere in the Pottersville area for parking. But at least if you want to, curtail parking or to reduce parking, and even, the parking in Roso to allow businesses to thrive better, because, sometimes when you go to pick up something, you may have a call coming in.
I have a few calls. Go
Right.
Yes.
So you would allow people to conduct their business, their daily business activities unobstructed. But as we speak, we have one lane in Roso, we could have one side parking. The mere fact that we park on both sides. If there's a fire, for heaven's sake, somewhere, especially at rush hour, and the fire brigade wants to attempt to get to the point that to get this fire extinguished, how is the fire brigade is going to do it? So if you have one side parking, the ambulance and the fire station or the fire service can move or navigate through easily without being obstructed. That's a big problem. But you're talking about parking problems, yet you compounding the problem. So it's supposed to reduce the problem. Now the point is, I do not believe in penal measures before you can put things in place so that one has an alternative to do something. In fact, if you do not have an alternative way of parking or to park, then you should not institute measures to penalize me.
Mm-hmm.
Some people talk about meters in Roso. For now, that's a no-no. All you do, you reduce parking by doing one side parking. That's a clear way of actually reducing the amount of vehicles in Roso. That's just one.
So keep clear on one side.
Keep it on one side. Everybody does business. If you are going to Jay's bookstore, Burton's, anything like you go to Fresh Market, at least you can park and attend to your business, and even the merchants themselves can navigate through easily without being obstructed. So that's just one temporary solution until we can find an alternative site, not just naming it, but get at work where we can have a multi-purpose parking, where you can have car washing done to employ some people, you can have restaurant business in one building, and just put a multi-purpose parking area with the necessary amenities to create employment for people. No, good. That was one. Matt, if you notice, during storms and maybe hurricanes, and even sometimes when we have heavy rainfalls, you have a lot of runoff, and this runoff contaminates the water source. Matt, it is easy, while we're talking about all these things, that we should let Roso be the envy of the Caribbean, and one way we could do it, we should actually allow all businesses and even the residential part of Roso to install water tanks. So that that's not just about just the conservation of water with respect to potable water, but at least if you harvest water from the rain, you can reduce the whole idea of spending a lot on water. And you can use the tank water to wash your cars, to wash your car, your yard, and to do domestic work and to save the potable water. And probably that will give us a chance now, while we're working ahead to get water exported, then most of the consumption that we are doing in the past, because we reduce that can be allowed to be exported. But why can't we? Every roof in Roso, I've heard them spoke about, the rooftop gardens. Probably that's a good idea. But not every roof can accommodate rooftop gardens. But every roof can accommodate a solar panel. Why now can we just, government policy shouldn't be directed and allowing people to purchase their solar panels, and to get Roso the envy of the Caribbean by making Roso be the first city that is actually of generating their electricity through solar power or through solar energy. We can do that. So your policies,
because if you notice, the Nassifs are right now using that technology,
and I want to congratulate them for that, because it's a good vibes. It's a good vibes. Then persons who have that can be off the grid, and while other businesses expand, we could get people on the grid. Because the point is, even if our current situation, we have had many times, or oftentimes we have had situations where we have power outages. Maybe we can come to the conclusion that too many people on the grid. But if someone would disagree with me, then there's an alternative that we can use to reduce persons actually on the grid. And so, Roso, with all of that talking about the drainage problem, we have not solved the drainage problem.
Roso is not the envy of the Caribbean.
So, without a doubt, and I stand by my statement, and the many other persons who will be contributing to this afternoon's program will attest to the fact that Roso cannot be the envy of the Caribbean. Roso is not even the envy of Dominica. Far more for Roso to be the envy of the Caribbean. So, this is just a snapshot of what could be done to enhance Roso. I said this before. The government, particularly Prime Minister, is boasted about how he's going to augment the market, the Roso market. And just to cover the Roso market, you know what he said? 5 years after the statement, he said that the plans were not brought to him. That is why he could not have done anything. You are the Prime Minister of this country. And I'm happy he said that one day he's going to have a program, a press conference, to tell Dominicans what he as Prime Minister is dissatisfied with.
He's not happy with.
He's not happy with. So I hope he will consider telling Dominicans why is it that the Roso market has not been augmented. You see people selling the Roso market. The food or the fresh vegetables that they have in the market sometimes. When it is not sold, you know what they do? They pack it up in hot cabins. That in itself have an adverse effect on the food that later can cause bacterial problems for people. Why is it there's not a refrigerated area in the market?
Let's take a phone call. Soso is on the roll. Hello, talk to me. Yes.
Yeah, you owe me a minute, eh? Right. Because you have me for a whole minute waiting to speak.
Hold on. Don't get angry with me. Go ahead. Talk to me.
Matt, good afternoon, Soso. Roso can't be the envy of the Caribbean. When to nearly every street you walk in, you have broken sidewalks. You have in the middle of the road have holes. The road sinking. I don't know how come I just pray to God that a tourist never fall in one of them holes there, break their leg in a hole in the road. Matt, you know it. You walk in the road every day, you see in it. Right? So there's no way Roso could be the envy of the Caribbean if when Kerry took that money to loan from China to build the $27 million house for a child servant to live in, and to build the college and the Electoral office. Part of that money, that since 2009-10, Roso had to be the envy of the Caribbean up to now. And you keep hearing that going on and on, that's telling the people Roso has to be this, Roso has to be that. And where, Sarah? I mean, give me a break. You can see other people so selfish, merely so in particular. And when they were building the place by you, they're building your business for you. The sidewalk should start from the end of the pipe by Zabo. They're going down to where them. When you take it from your end, you didn't make them continue. All the rest of the broken down sidewalks still there. Why didn't you just take it there and make it look beautiful? So that is selfishness. When I said the other day, I said, watch that. Look at the state of the sidewalk there. And go in your store now, have beautiful paved tile sidewalk. You go inside the paragraph of Roso. You start on that already. And so much more. The stadium has to be righted. Over $2 million was spent to lift up the stadium. Up to now. Where the money go? Where the man that had to do it, he died. Where up to the 2-point-something million? And now we hear in Loto give how much million for the stadium. Cricket going to play all over the Caribbean this year. We don't get nothing. Nothing. So what happening to us? We are sports ministers paying money for to them gun cut a ribbon and to sit down somewhere. What happening to them? They're not doing their work. They're not effective. Since after Ron Green, we haven't seen one effective sports minister in that Labour Party. All the people do is getting the money. So Mr. Soso, Roso could be better. Where the Melissa build the river bridge there? There was supposed to be a parking lot. They said that was what they were going to use it for. You can see them people that are talking on their head and they have got no real idea. They didn't put the parking lot there. They put there for buy a vote housing city. That is what they put there, buy a vote. But when they put the parking lot there, they can't buy vote. So they have to put that housing scheme there to buy vote. Workers build proper housing scheme. People could use their house Build stay upstairs, rent downstairs. Widen on their house how they want. But when they put the people there, number one, scary, tell the people that is government house. Take our time. We put in order to live in our house. Even when they were opening the river bridge, I think Melissa made that same comment to the people. That's all the house to live in. Because I only you. That's all the house. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Blue on the roll there, Matt. Mr. Glenroy Coffee is a breath of fresh air, breath of fresh air politically, showing knowledge and focus on the people and community development. I pray that he gets the opportunity to serve his people, our people, at the highest level of representation. That was coming from Mr. Joshua Francis, of course, Mr. Joshua Francis, attorney at law, and of course a former member of the United Workers Party. Hello, talk to me, yes? Are you there?
Yes, it's me again.
You're lucky.
Yes, do you know this administration has gotten the most money in their hands compared to all other administration that passed it. What have they done with it? I don't know. They got money for COVID. We didn't get nothing. Money for hurricanes, nothing. Where the money go? We want to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, somebody's adding, Soso is on point. Government are building schools and health centers without taking renewable energy into account. Although China, take a note of that, although China, his friends are leading the world in solar technology. And that's very true.
Well, yes, and this is what I'm saying, that we I'm not opposed to work being done by government. In fact, anything that government does, right, in the interest of the people, I'm for it. But when we make comments, we can agree to disagree. And that is why I had to come here to clarify some of what people thought that was political rhetoric. So those who oppose to what I've said have the opportunity now to come and rebut. But interestingly, as we speak and as going forward with respect to Roso, I've done a survey in Roso and I came up with 199 empty lots, right? And yes, 199, including those who have derelict houses, like old houses. And my thought at the time was, look, some of these lots are sizable enough that we could accommodate parking. You can imagine 100 of these lots accommodating 10 vehicles just for the day. That's 1,000 vehicles off of the road. So these are the things that we have to look at, and it doesn't have to be government. Most of the lots are privately owned, so persons could generate money from the use of these lots that are not being used right now. So all the government has to do, direct its policies so that you can work in harmony with the landowners, and the city council can do as likewise, and to come up with a plan to actually do that and give the landowners the necessary incentives that are required to move forward. That's what we do, what we develop Roso. And you have been talking about the vendors who have been around in Roso. Why are you going to put the vendors when you have not given them an alternate site or alternative sites? So look, some of the empty lots could be set up in a way that they are color coded, set them up nicely with nice picket fences in a color code, and the people who sell vegetables, and so you could say, okay, all where that you have green booths, that's where you can find your vegetables, and so on and so on, and you move forward to working with the private sector to see how you can get the people out of the road, but you have to brush them off and you have nowhere to bring them. That's not what you do. And so, there are houses as well. And some of them are wooden houses that they are very much a fire hazard in Roso. A fire hazard. Should a fire build up? How are you going to address this? So we need to work in harmony with the landowners and to incentivize the Department of Investment so that the people can feel spurred to invest and to get people to help in terms of the development of Roso.
Isn't the Prime Minister the Minister of Investment?
Well, again, investment, but what investment? What investment? And I was just talking about the Roso market. So I was talking about the first floor could be done for the people who vend, and during the time that they have not, finished sell their produce. They could put it there in a fresh, cool, controlled environment. You could have another floor.
We should have some refrigeration in the
Yes, at least for the vegetable, the fresh fruits and vegetables. I don't know what health is doing. I don't know if they've gone out and said, I'm not blaming the people. If you have unsold produce, obviously you must put them somewhere. But there should be a time, on it so that you will not risk the chance of building up bacteria and deliver people. I mean, luckily Dominicans have strong immune system.
And sometimes you have to take it back home.
Exactly. And all the transporting the heat and not under control conditions, that can pose a health threat to people. I mean, come on, in the United States, even when they do the analysis on fruits and vegetables, they come up with salmonella. And that, to me, can cause bacterial infection and in people and it could be life threatening. So we must be able to do diagnostic on those things and to see whether or not we are doing the right thing. But just as I on the market, I was talking about 4-tier or 5-tier, marketplace. And you go up, make sure that you will have to do the necessary, construction work and construction analysis to see whether or not it can happen.
And actually, you can put the containers up.
Oh, well, yeah, but I'm talking about tier 1, fresh produce below.
Yes.
Tier 2, maybe you have Dominican local products only. So when you go there, you can say, let me go and get a local cocoa. Let me go and get coffee. Let me go and get a punch. All the spices and herbs that we produce right there. And another floor, Carmen's. Dominicans are talented. What about Rob Duet? What about our national rare? What about the sensei? So somebody can just go upstairs and just buy. The other floor, cafeteria, restaurateurs. Get people to move this economy. And upstairs you have a lovely terrace where from time to time you can go and look at and have a moonlight enjoyment.
And have a meal as well.
And probably too, it could be rental space to have wedding receptions and other things to have a good view instead of what you see. We do not have a tourist reception center, but we have a tent reception center. You defaced the Roso and Bayfront with tents only.
So you think the vendors are put in the wrong place, right?
No, I'm not hitting the vendors. The government policies fail to address putting the vendors in proper space. I just gave you one of the recommendations I have with respect to putting the vendors in certain areas where you have empty lots. Right. You work in sync and in harmony with the lot owners and develop them. One person said to me in an argument, but the tourists will go everywhere. The same way we have tour guides to go all over the country. Can you not have tour guides to go in mandatory streets where you have vendors vending? I mean, it's we to create initiatives to get sale. And I'm not in no way trying to talk about isolating the vendors, but at least to have Roso tidy up and to clean up the place and to make Roso look more compatible, more palatable for doing business, you need to have a clean Roso and to have an organized Roso. And that's why I said before, to have a deep transformational Roso, you need the United Workers' Party to get in office so that we can at least put our money where our mouth is, and to let Roso be the envy of Dominica and by extension the Caribbean.
All right, hello, talk to me on the telephone. Yes. Sorry about that. I know everybody's been trying to have a conversation with Mr. Glenroy Coffee. Are you there? Yes?
Yes, Matt, I'm there. Good afternoon, Mr. Coffee. Good afternoon, Matt.
Good afternoon, sir. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, those that accuse you of political rhetoric. I mean, come on. Here's an example. How many election cycles? Talk about rhetoric. How many election cycles has Mr. Skerritt been talking about a new Roso? and his wife talked about the Saudis, that the money popped up from the Saudis. How many election cycles before we actually see the work? I mean, talk about rhetoric. Mr. Skerritt came from China and he said he had 350 million for the airport. Next thing we hear, when they ask him in Parliament how much, we have to spend the money because of this and that. And you know what? When he talked about that 350 million for the airport, the ambassador, the Chinese ambassador, came on the radio and corrected Mr. Skerritt, and he said, Mr. Skerritt got the money from a Chinese finance company. He did not get it from the government of China, which is very different. And they corrected Skerritt publicly. And Mr. Skerritt just kept his mouth shut and let time pass on that. Matt, if I'm wrong, correct me, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Another statement here coming in, Matt. I was raised in Roso, in which, on a daily basis, women who worked for the Roso City Council swept the drains and garbage was collected, and Roso looked very clean. Today, the drains in Roso has an obnoxious scent. The sidewalks are uneven and broken. The roads are very uneven, and the capital looks like a rundown, abandoned place. We deserve and can do better. That's a text message, yeah? All right, let's take another phone call. Many phone calls are coming in. Hello? Yes. Caller, are you there? Caller, are you there? You're not. Let's move on to the next call. Are you there? Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Mr. Soso, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon.
In the house.
Sir.
A question to you, Mr. Soso. I worked in Roso some years ago, and I know we built a house close to where I think that supermarket or what they call the closed store is right now, close to Valentine's, around there. And we connect. I saw the busman connect the plumbing system or the drainage to a sewage. Is the sewage still functional in Roso? And if it is, where is it emptying, or where is it leading to, or where it's going? Because I follow a sewage system one time, I saw it lead right to the sea. I'm not telling no lie. I could not believe it. I called a guy, say, what is this? He said, that's the sewage outlet into the sea. I said, toilet paper, and it was just run. I'm not too sure, but I would like to know where the sewage system goes. And if you're getting power, when you're getting power, as a government, how are you all going to take care of that? Because I know that's a serious issue in Roso. So how are you all going to take care of the sewage system and the sidewalk at the same time, to develop Roso? Because we do have a sewage issue in Roso.
Yes, and Nicola is right, and I know for sure, with all honesty, they've done some work in Roso with respect to having a central system where you pull the waste, toilet waste, and it goes right to the treatment plant across the river Dawasco has, and I think it's been treated. As to the functionality and the whole operational procedures and processes, I have no knowledge of that, but I do know is that we have a central sewage system now that everything goes to a treatment plant at Pottersville. But there's much to be done. It's not all about treatment plant. You have to go further in terms of how can you treat that water and maybe recycle. Yeah. So all these things are things that we have to look at. And that's what I'm saying. Had these basic things been done, today we'll be talking about augmenting the water treatment in terms of probably recycling water, not necessarily to drink, but probably to use agriculture, to get it for irrigation. And so these are the things, but we are so way back that we still have to go back to basics before these things can be done.
You think we are 25 years behind?
So this is not a joke, for a government who claims to have had the most money, who is now on a roll with, again, propaganda about what they have done and what they ought to have done. And yet, when we open our eyes, we can still see. We are not seeing much to report on. I said before, if any of the government members are brave right now, let us have a debate as to what the government has done, and let us see whether or not it has met all of what supposed. Because the point is not about doing something; it's result. It's results. We have to get results in what we do. We must be able to get results. Failure to get results, we are going we are not getting anywhere.
Would you take on the Minister of Agriculture in a debate?
Sir, let me tell you something. It is not about showing off. I mean, let me just say, I'm thankful that God has given me the ability to at least open my eyes, to be able to read through a lot of reports, to be able to, if you notice that I'm one who say, are you on the ground? Well, it's only when you're on the ground, you know what is happening. So I can say I'm knowledgeable about the issues of Roso and Dominica, and I would debate any one of the ministers. I have no problem that we are going to talk. Once we're not going to fight, I don't come on the program to fight. I'm coming to speak of what, and it's not just to criticize, but to bring solutions to the many problems that we have.
Solutions oriented.
Results oriented. Right. Solution oriented.
All right. Somebody says, please remind Mr. Coffee that he should speak on the only open green space in Roso, the Botanic Gardens, which is the historical site not only in Dominica but among the sister islands in the region. So Soso should speak on strengthening of the agricultural sector. That will not only strengthen the economy, but will also strengthen the economic activities.
Oh, yes, certainly. And again, when you look at the Botanic Gardens, I'm one of those who are opposed to what is happening in the gardens right now. The gardens have become a parking lot now. That is unfair to a little environmental space we have where we could go and do relaxation, breathe freely, probably consume our lunch there. Families go there and they relax, maybe picnic there. It's not good enough. and the level of carbon monoxide that is exposed in the environment there, it is not good for the trees. I mean, there was a plan afoot for an alternate road behind far east, to have that road at the back of the gardens so that we could have an exit and to ease up the flow of traffic for the city. Probably that is good, but right now as we speak, we need a better environment, an environment more conducive for relaxation. And I will say one thing, Matt, before when you go to the gardens, you would see that the gardens is properly shaded. Today, you have more sunlight in the gardens than shade. I don't think it is all right to say that it is a good ambience for relaxation. We need to do more and to plant some exotic trees, and so that you can take these schools to children here. They are the gardens. Take them to the gardens to identify some of the exotic trees that we have, and to be able to identify with them, because some of them would like to probably, based on they do biology, and some of them might be interested in botany, and you need to educate them about the trees. Maybe a mini zoo would be good. I know there's a question about captivity and animals and holding them isolated for a long time, but what you do over time to resolve this problem, you capture now, and in a few years you let go. You do no capture, so you don't have one animal or animals in captivity for a long time. If I, for the International Forestry and Animal Wildlife, heard me now, they would say, okay, that's a good idea, because I know people are concerned about captivity. So these are some of the things that we do. And I believe now we have to move on, because the agricultural department in the gardens, it is no more. It is no more, except they have a nursery area there. I continue to recognize the good work that they do there. They do nursery of flowers and other cuttings and so, ornamentals and so, fruit trees and so, and that's good. But by and large, we have had closure of many of our agricultural stations. And what the government is boasting is that they replace them with housing development. I'm saying, man, if you want to have a vibrant agricultural industry and to move agriculture and to grow agriculture and to allow people to create wealth for themselves, you need training grounds, you need training schools, agricultural training schools. You need these things so that you train people so that they can augment themselves and to have a model farm established so that they can learn from what they see and to have it, implemented on their farms. And I'll go further to say that I'm not in favor of you pushing people to do better, to increase productivity, which is the relationship between input and output. But yet you are not putting in necessary incentives in so that people can at least move forward. You have to feel that you're moving from point A to B. What I mean is that if you have a target crop, you're supposed to at least do your assessment to know if the land has met all of the attributes. And if not, where you lack certain infrastructure, you go in there as government, a land is saturated with water, you put drainage. A land experiences water deficit, you put the necessary irrigation. We have had that under the United Workers' Party. In fact, the United Workers' Party was the government at the time who initiated the irrigation program. And Cassie Bruce was irrigated. When this government, we didn't have time to implement it, but everything was done. Peter Carbon, Honorable Peter Carbon, can call in and attest to that. He and his government did all of the preparatory work for irrigation to come in. And when this government came in, they did it and they commissioned it. But what the lapse was it or on it? How can you implement an irrigation system and put water at the farm gates of the farmer? Ask the farmer now to take from the farm gate to put on his farm. Without no capital help, no bridge financing, no incentive to go to the bank and borrow. What you should have done is to put the necessary infrastructure, give the farmer a grace period, and to allow him to recover his costs, and then charge him a fee for maintenance of the system. What you should have done is to train a water management unit so that you would have persons who are well trained to do water scheduling for farmers and to prepare farmers not to over-irrigate, because the worst thing to do is to go and irrigate, and then you have heavy rainfall. You can reach a situation where you have over-irrigation, or you can under-irrigate as well. But you'd have a technical team, and that is why we have always been advocating for a technical committee, so that in that committee, you'd have persons who would give technical guidance. And with that water management unit, they'll be able to guide the farmer as to how they plan their scheduling of watering at a certain time of the day and what to do. So you'll have other meteorological instruments to guide with respect to how you go about irrigating. So you know what the level of precipitation you'd know by having wind gauges. You'd have a sundial to know how much sun, the intensity of sun. You probably had a barometer to cover the wind readings and so many other things, an evaporation pan or evapotranspiration pan to determine the level of evaporation and transpiration taking place. So you'll know, well, look, we have had a pronounced period of drought and a lot of water has been lost from the plant and to the soil. So you need to put back and to irrigate. That's how you plan agriculture. We should be doing soil assessment and plant tissue assessment, and to put crops grown where they are most suitable to be grown. Not where you think they should be grown, but what your assessment tells you. So you do an assessment of the soil. So you know all your micronutrients, you know all your macronutrients, and then you know what is lacking. Then you put it in there, and you said, look, you are ready for passion fruit. Because passion fruit will require X amount of Y, what you want. And then once you have all of all the attributes that you require, then you're ready for good agriculture. But importantly, you must be able to identify markets. And you must be able to address food security. Enough food to consume and enough food to export. One thing in Jamaica, you could say that in Jamaica, Jamaica now is self-sufficient in Irish potatoes. So which means that not only that they are able to provide for consumption, but the population is able to purchase. We've heard the minister in the past before, you've heard Mr. Douglas said, we are self-sufficient in eggs, but can Dominican buy eggs? It's not about self-sufficiency. It's about affordability. So let's marry the two. And that's where we are heading, Matt.
So just coming back to that same issue of agriculture, where do you think we are with agriculture? Are we going somewhere?
Well, Matt, first of all, we lack figures, and the government cannot convince me. I heard somebody out of just talking, stating that we are now accruing over $200 million in agriculture, right? That's what they say. Where is the record to prove that? I'm not foolish. In the past, the reason why I can tell you now, in 1988, we've had one of the highest output with respect to banana, just one subsector, banana production, 72,000 tons, and that brought an accruance of about $108 million into the economy. The records are there to show, right? Similarly, under United Workers' Party government, we've moved non-banana crops from about $2 million to over $20 million. Obviously, we did not survive being a second round to win government, but we would have been in a better place today. And you can many farmers can call in now to attest to the fact that money was making money. So when you talk about agriculture, based on what I'm reading, we are not close. And I'm not saying that things are not happening with respect to the huckster trade. I want to congratulate the many hucksters who continue to buy from the farmers and to rescue them from that overproduction that we are experiencing. That glut. You can imagine you are producing probably dashings or tanyas or even bananas.
And
there are no markets. So that's what you do as a responsible government. And that's why I said we need a producer organization responsible to take up production and responsible to take up marketing and to export the farmers' produce. But more importantly, because CARICOM has said over and over that there is concern about food security and the high import bill, we're supposed to be able now to produce enough for ourselves to consume and enough for the export market.
So we can feed the Caribbean.
In fact, Dominica should be one of the countries right now. We are center of the Caribbean. We should be producing food enough and stuff for the Caribbean. We should be the ones, actually Dominica has it. And we can partner with other countries where we fall short to fulfill the required volumes.
But I've heard for many years that we would be providing two ships going, one going north and one going south.
To what?
What has happened?
Boats?
Yeah, boats.
So you can get boats and you have nothing to put in the boat? Why do you buy a car? Why do you buy a motorbike? Why do you buy a bicycle? You don't buy something because you want to buy it, You buy something to be purposeful. So at the time boats were spoken about, maybe it was justified. We had production. Now you get a boat, what are we going to do? Now, before you buy the boat, you have to seek the market. And I don't talk about any boats with the necessary conditions. You're talking about refrigerated boats. So if you're talking about your perishables that will not stay long and they are easily consumed by the atmospheric conditions, then you need to have refrigerated boats so that when you ship the perishables, that they can be under controlled temperature to the journey. You need to keep the cold chain in check. That's what you do. A responsible government does just that. Not just talk.
All right, so it's on the roll here this afternoon. Hello, talk to you on the telephone, yes? Uh-huh.
Mr. Perkins, like I said.
How you doing, man?
Mr. Glenroy Coffee, how are you?
Good afternoon, sir. It's a pleasure to hear you.
Yeah, I have just some quick observation. I think most of your callers have made the point. I find Mr. Glenroy Coffee was very kind to Melissa Popo and her rep with respect to his comments. I heard the comments. Martha Spelty and your listeners, what they call in urban planning, the city of Roso is a decaying city.
You said a decaying city?
Yeah, it's called urban decay.
Okay.
When you look at the situation, especially when you compare what this government met and what is Roso right now, Roso is a decaying city. In addition to the many points that were raised by your various callers, I'm not going to go over it. For example, the waterfront. In any city, Master Espiritu, your waterfront is the thing of your city. At first, they went and they put some little huts with timber. I critique it, and I noticed that they replaced them with now they have some tents there.
White tents.
How can you block your city, your waterfront that way? They wouldn't say, okay, I'm going to put 10, leave an open space of about 5 spaces, and then I'll go and put another 10. They have blocked everything. Look at the Roso River. That's supposed to be a major natural feature of your city. The few things what they build on the promenade, they build it back to front. People could sit down and enjoy the water, etc. Look at the city. I suspect they did not want to keep it clean because right now it's like a forest on both sides of the river.
True.
They come to right next to the market at the mouth of the Roso River and they build a bridge on the water on the riverbed. So anytime it floods heavily on Roso River, it's going to go over the bridge and it floods the rest of the city. That's what happened during Hurricane Maria. You go walk through Roso and when people mention the sidewalks and so on, that is every day. When you come to a stage where you have to put what they call it, the trap or whatever, in a city, it tells you, everything is chaotic. You have to put these things so to control the population of rats in your city. This is crazy. It means that things have gone so bad. This government came when they met. The two Kuwaitis government came in with the check in their back pocket to pay for the Roso Road Reinstatement project that would have replaced and repaired all the sidewalks and the streets of Roso with proper drainage. This incompetent administration could not see the benefit of this. 25 years after, they're talking about they're going to do some main streets and so on. Just they can start it. Look at the Botanic Gardens, one of the most important tourist attractions in your city. What you did, you turn it into a highway. A highway through the Botanic Gardens. Oh, who does that in the city? You go to the historic section of the city around Fort Young and so forth. That's the historic section of the city. You put the children's playground, but it's a good thing for the children. But that's what you could choose outside of plastic and colored plastic in your historic district. Look at the city council, the Bracken building. That's supposed to be one of the major attractions in the city. It's all dilapidated. Master but so you're very kind to the power rep. Just do your work, and I can guarantee if Dominicans are thinking, this power rep or the Labour Party can never in Central Roso. Just do your work, my friend.
All right, thank you very much. Somebody says here, Matt Soso is so 100% on point. This is a man with a vision. The city of Roso is small enough to be a walking city like what exists in New Orleans for the tourists. Great ideas to place vendors around the city. And between Mr. Isaac Baptist, who was head of the consultancy group that developed an extensive plan for the development of Roso. A similar development plan was also developed for the town of Portsmouth. They are now on shelves collecting dust. Great contribution and discussion with Soso. Soso is so deep, profound and intelligent delivery, and that's the kind of discussion we need to have in Dominica. So again, commendations. Also a lot of commendations coming to you this afternoon. Hello, talk to me on the telephone, yes?
The Dominica Grammar School in this modern day is what are they going to put solar energy panels on the Dominica New Grammar School? Because I've seen it building like a hurricane shelter for hurricane. What they call it, the rooftop for.
You mean concrete roof? Yes.
That's what I've seen. Are they going to put solar panels there? Would like to find that. Would like to find out. Because all about now we will pass in the solar panels. Looking at little send kids there in solar panels. And by the bayfront there, last Papa Matt, that's a hell hole. When you see the city, the sun hot, them people there, I don't know how they have to suffer from lack of blood in their system, dry up their blood. Because inside that does be hot. The plastic molecule give them there with no breathing spot. What a calamity in that city.
Calamity.
Right on point.
All right, caller, thank you very much. Matt, what does Soso think about the postal inefficiencies? How do the UWP plan to keep the running efficiently, the postal service in Dominica? So you're concerned about
Well, I think, by the way, I heard the great voice of Mr. Isaac Baptist. As a development planner, Mr. Isaac has contributed tremendously to the development of Dominica with respect to designs, ideas, and so on. In fact, he has done many consultancies that would have, in fact, been helpful if the government was so keen and interested in moving Dominica and particularly Roso forward. So when you have voices as such, you should feel, honored to get the compliments from these development planners or from him as a development planner. And so even he himself made a suggestion some time ago, and as the person talk about the postal thing, that they should make so much empty space and it is not being used. The post office upstairs to make it a court. Today they have taken that idea and they've done it. So that was one of many ideas that could have happened. In fact, I'm not there right now, and I heard people. I'm not here in the studio to at least tell people of the plans of the United Workers' Party, because oftentimes people say you're selling out your strategy. It's not about selling out strategy. We have said so many things that if this government had taken them on board, Dominica would be a better place to live and to work.
Either you're competent or not.
It's either you're competent or not. So it's not about what I say. It's not about bringing out strategy. If you merely say you want unity, that's not a strategy in just, on face value. No, your strategy has to be deeper than that. But at least we're saying, look, we need to come together as Dominicans to get it going. But I will tell you straight, Matt, the United Workers' Party is well poised to get in itself ready for governance. We have been out in the 4.5 years we have been in government. We have shown more and more worth than this government who has had 20, 25 years. And as we speak, and I was asking the question whether we're regressing or progressing. Even the library, we have had the library situation. The library was in a dilapidated state prior to Maria, but there was space and the environment was conducive for going to do your research, enough yard space. You do not want to stay inside, you go out. They bring us in a cubicle now for the library. Oh, Roso library can mean a little cubicle.
It's a shame.
Are we progressing or are we regressing? This is a fundamental question, And when people speak, I don't care about, I will not trade invectives with persons or attack persons personally. I want, if someone wants to talk on developmental issues, let us talk about it. Let us have an exchange. Let us have a meeting. Let us
agree to disagree.
Let's agree to disagree. I'm not going to make noise. But when you go on a radio station and oppose it and have your callers call in to diss me or to say, that doesn't worry me. But one thing, I'm a person very fixed, yeah? Mm-hmm. I'm a person very fixed. And I will say to anybody, if I was working in a medical store, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector, I would not have opened a pharmacy. You know why? I would be in the path of direct conflict of interest. That's all I will say.
That's all you'll say. Yes. All right, then let's take a break. We'll take a break there for some water. We'll come right back. Stick around. Those is on fire, boy. And this is the Talk on the Block. We'll come back for your phone calls. I'll give you some extra time, okay?
My desire is to make no problem with no one. None interference, none political. No matter what you do, I see I'm dying and here and there. I'm an African. Into Babylon, I'm an African. Just no one say I'm an African. Some said I'm a Rasta, African. These little hands and simple fingers that they were not made to pin nor tear. You hear? That's the moving deeds of kindness you see. And to fall in thoughts of prayer to help my brother pray was a betterment of his life. Hey. Oh yeah. It's better to have a friend than to need one. It's better to find a friend than to be in need. Lift up your brother, don't you put him down. One and watch the other. Go and rock it home. I'm a humble African. I was born to love my brother. I'm a humble African. United I must be. I'm a humble African. No matter what they say, I'm a humble African. Now football came here from the days of slavery. I work until my skin start to strip.
I know the telephones have never stopped ringing here, but we're here with, of course, Glenroy Coffee, and we're, of course, doing a review of the city of Roso under the leadership, if you will, of Melissa Popon-Skerrit. Are you there? Talk to me.
Yes, Matt, I'm there, Matt.
Okay.
But Matt, what I heard Suso mention about agriculture, I have to call. I'm trying to call, but I couldn't get you earlier on.
I know.
But Suso is a former colleague of mine, of course. We work in the banana industry together,
Okay.
right? So, but what I'm saying is this. I'm hearing that there is a proposal for $700 million by the year 1930. Good proposal, good talk. But Matt, to arrive at that, Matt, there are many things you have to do. You cannot just say you talk about it and you're not doing the things you have to do to get it done, Matt. If you are going to do that, Matt, you have to have organized farming, right? There you have to bring back the agricultural stations, make them operational, have it as a place where the farmer can come and get advice, and at the same time, the farmer can learn and get the kind of assistance they need. But if you just talk about it and nothing is done, you're not going to achieve that at all, man. And of course, the feeder roads and all those things have to go with it. So I know it's getting late, so I just want to say that. So good job. You are blazing it on all your cylinders.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, mister. Thank you, sir. My good boy.
You're blazing, boy. Wow. Let's see if we can take a voice note there. Yes?
Matt, good afternoon to you and Suso.
Good afternoon.
I sent you a video there to show you when I heard you all talking about the sewage system and it ends up in the treatment plant across Betong. That is not so. This has been destroyed a long time ago. The sewage exits right into the Roso River, right under KFC there. I have a video that I just sent you, and there are many more of that kind of activity.
Interesting. I'll share with Soso.
You know what? That's why I said I don't know what is the process and the operations now. But what I do know is that they had upgraded the central system to had gone to the treatment plant. And if such is the case, it's unfortunate because right away, yeah, our water source is being contaminated and fresh aquatic life is being affected. And that's not very good. And people do fishing just out there. So you can imagine what health risk that is. So if this is the case, then I believe then the health department would have to look into the matter and to put some corrective action plan into it.
Okay, more telephone calls for Glenroy Coffee. Hello, yes? Hello.
Yes, I'm calling from overseas, man.
Okay, go
I know you since I was small.
Okay, go ahead.
And listen to me very good. Listen to me what I'm telling you there. You see that government there? That government is a government of corruption. And they look for themselves, look for nobody else. You know what I'm telling you? I had to leave my country and come to a strange country to make it in life. And listen to me. Scary was a little boy. Before Scary coming to government, he was with the manager of Liat. He used to keep them meeting downstairs the basement of manageability at Jared Kuzlati. And today, you're telling me Jared Kuzlati and Dr. Farrer had the biggest house in Dominica. You understand what I'm telling you? Yeah. So
Yes, I'm saying, you're saying what? I'm missing that point there. What you said?
Listen to what I'm telling you.
Okay.
I was when Skerrit coming to government, Skerrit was a little boy.
Okay.
Listen to very good, I'm telling you. Jared Kuzlati and Dr. Farah had the biggest house in Mount Daniel. Today, how comes Skerrit have the biggest house in Mount Daniel? I don't understand nothing happening there. I don't understand nothing happening there. Where you get that kind of money to build that mansion? Where you get that kind of money to build that mansion? I just don't understand. Dominica, look at the market. Look at the market. When I came down after 7 years back, the market, Haitian take over the market, my boy. Dominica is not Dominica like before. You know what I'm telling you?
Mm-hmm.
Dominica just come a strange way. Nothing not improving. Everything come expensive. And the Dominican people now saying Skerrit is working. And they're not seeing the misery. They are not seeing the misery. People coming from overseas and vote them and putting them people in poverty when all of them getting money from the government, from where I be there. But listen to me. God is not a police. Don't worry about that. Everything has to change. There's a time for everything. And wickedness that men do, they live with them and they will sit in front of them. Because Dominica come a kind of a way. It's misery. Everybody tell me do not come Dominica. Because Dominica has nothing to offer. Nothing to offer. And it is time for us to put a stop to that. Let that government come out from there. That government is for themselves and themselves only and their pocket. Because all of them today, these ministers and them have big houses. Ask me how much years they work. Ask me how much years they work to have those big houses and have how much things going overseas and traveling and doing all kind of nonsense. It is time for you to put a stop. I myself don't come and vote. I don't come to Dominica. But it's time for the people of Dominica to see the light. Because you cannot tell me, you're telling them to live in a house and after, you're telling them they just live in a house, but it is your house. And I personally want that man to take prison like Trump. He and Trump is the same thing. Does he get how many money? He get for hurricane. He get for COVID. He get up to now. You cannot see that money passing. Melissa find herself a big store. Her pitch up nice in front of the store. Money came. And all those things there. All those things Dominican will watch this getting in. And the same Skerrit is working my PM. But life don't work like that, my boy. I'm so sorry I would have to tell you that. Anyway, have a good day.
That's somebody calling from the overseas line there. 449-3095. Of course, venting his frustration about the government in power. Hello, yes.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Sophie.
So good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Gentlemen, I am just thinking about a few things that you've mentioned a few of them earlier on. But first of all, to get to where Dominica should be, we have to kind of get away from the food security thing that we've been using as just a famous hobby word, or sort of hobby word. Food sufficiency is another one we use very often. What we need really is food. We need to food to guarantee food sovereignty. Mark the word, food sovereignty. Dominica can do better. We can do much better in providing food for itself. We are importing too much by container loads. We import in container loads of stuff that we can grow here. The reason why that is happening because there is no serious emphasis or no desire for agriculture in this country. Hence, the people who have the businesses are importing from other countries, providing employment to other countries, while our young people and our senior citizens are unemployed. Since the Hurricane Maria, what has happened to the coconut industry? Have we done any serious replanting? How about cocoa? Our cocoa is some of the best in the world. You can recall that Stuart Paris went they had something somewhere in Martinique or somewhere, and he got the first prize. How about the citrus industry? We have done so well with citrus in the past. What about the citrus industry and nutmegs and bay? Wine is still very expensive. Beer is still needed. Beer is still craved after. What has happened to our beer industry in Dominica? These are areas we need to spent some time, working on. And finally, I want to talk about sports. Sports. We should activate sports from a very early age, from preschool, because sporting activities is not only for exercise, but you can live a long life, being involved in sports. Oh, look at these guys who are in the NBA. Look at how rich these guys have become. Some of them are very simple, humble beginning, and they're multi-millionaires. We have to do much better in sports. And for example, what is happening right now with the different schools? You're seeing schools are being built, structures are being built in communities, and not much is being done to emphasize or to zero in on the importance of sports. I could go on and on, but I want to leave it here.
Yes, I agree with you. The sports, we have to focus a little more on sports.
Yes, and in fact, I made the point that before at the Winterberg, we used to play more than 11 sports at a time and unobstructed. And today, see what we have. And it goes back to the point where we were saying, look, people need exercise, they will do sports. The Winterberg is to be open freely for you to just walk in. Today, it is closed. Are we regressing or are we progressing? Yet you hear the pirate and people defending the pirate without, evidence. Or you need to make sure that when you speak that you know what you're talking about. So it's on all of these points, and I'm very very much moved by that in terms of sports, because I know what sports have done for a number of persons before. What you had is that when people play football, you used to have scouts from overseas, and when you play basketball, they come up and they look for people who have talent. They would harvest them, get them to colleges, get them moving, and probably even if they start at the amateur stage, develop their skills, and at the same time, their academics. So sports in itself offers an opportunity for people to transform their lives and to become professionals later. So you see what FIALAF have done for us. You see what the St. Lucian counterpart in sports she has done for St. Lucia. And that's the way we have to go. But again, we are regressing in this country. And the only way that we can fix these things, we can swing high, we can swing low. 25 years, I think it's too long for our government. This government is expired. We have to ensure that this government is removed. It is over, Mr. Prime Minister. There's nothing more you can do. We have had enough of your lies. We really cannot endure more of the pain of labor. That is one man-made hurricane I know that has devastated our country for a long while. This is Hurricane Labour Party. And I will say too, I know the time is running down, that
we have a few minutes. I'm going to give you a few minutes.
Yeah, I heard the Prime Minister talk about reparation. And reparation, someone asked a question about it, and he was responding. And reparation doesn't only refer to the colonizers who exploited our people, and now the inheritance of what their inheritance that some of their family members inherit, and the generation, and to give back to the people. No, not that alone. Reparation would mean that all who steal to the state should be repatriated back to the state. So I hope you are aware that this is what we're talking about when we talk about reparation. There are many aspects of how the state should get back what people steal from the state. But I will say too much that someone made a point about the roads, and we should not be speaking here about road development in Roso Central. Matt, go up when you are through here. Just take a drive up to Mount Daniel, where the Prime Minister lives. Where the Prime Minister currently lives in that mansion, and another mansion that is taking place higher up in that same area there. Matt, look at both sides of the road, how they are well kept. Matt, if 5 to 6 roads were done in Roso Central, just as that, we would have seen a difference
on the both sides.
On the both sides, Matt, in terms of sidewalk properly arranged, drainage and road repitch and everything else. So, Mr. Prime Minister, you know what is good for us, but it's just for yourself you are interested. You're interested in yourself. So the same way you feel that where you live right now and the new building that is going up in the same area where you live, if you feel that you want to enhance that area and if you feel the need to enhance that area, why can't you see the need to do the same for Roso and many other areas or parts of Dominica?
But he has already established so where he is living right now is rent for $64,000. And the new building is his own.
Right.
He said that.
Yeah. But he said that, so I'm saying, look, I'm comparing now the roads. Both sides of that property going right down. It is well done. It is well done. And I wonder who did it for him. You criticizing public works. Your customer bringing the Chinese. If that 2 roads were done by the Chinese, why can't you bring the same Chinese with Dominicans who have together with competent Dominicans who have the skill to develop Roso? Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Prime Minister, enough is enough.
All right.
Enough is enough.
Yes, here's a text message. I didn't understand the first part of it, but I understood the other parts. The target audience for this current power rep is not business people in the business of the city, but rather parents grappling with their basic needs for their children. But as so, how comes it's only the Carnival route that has been paved in Roso, and how do we get back our bayfront? Instead of helping Roso people building generational wealth and businesses, the power rep is occupied running welfare programs and calling it development. Mark Sir. Matt, even our ferry terminal on the bayfront needs modernizing and not updating of the lattice and fence hour. How come this Carnival route alone that has been paved and that was being paved?
Well, even the Carnival route in terms of being paved. Well, the other day they did part of Bayfront, and wow, that was a big thing for them, as if that that's the end of fixing roads. I mean, as I said, I applaud everything that's good for Roso. I'm talking about not just piecemeal work in Roso. Roso need to be properly graded up, do the sidewalks properly, and get to real infrastructure with the designs that the experts have put forward. The development planners have done enough work. Sufficient work has been done to ensure that we have a good Roso, a city that people can envy, a city when Dominicans return from abroad, they can say, yes, I can see the difference. That's what we need to see. And I also, too, would like the government or the power rep for Roso to stop interchanging spots with CO. Every time we have activities in the trapezium-shaped forecourt that we have there at Windsor Park, you have to push the basketball net aside. You have to take out the volleyball net, the netball net, everything, and have a CO. And sometimes the CO going for weeks, and people want to have the little sweating. How can we do that? Roso still is under pressure. Does Roso have a community center? Maybe somebody would say, maybe we don't need one. But the Arak House of Culture, we have a lot of activities taking place there. We used to have even graduation ceremonies taking place there. When you have, the theatrical exercises going on there, people practice and do their things. Why can't we get it done? You had insurance for that building. You received the money. 7 years later, is it still in the same state? Are we regressing or are we progressing? Some people have already put thumbs up that we are regressing.
All right, now somebody's asking a question there. We have Mia Motley coming in this weekend. Somebody's asking, what does Soso think about the loss of Ross of 35% of our GDP, and Mia coming to Dominican June first?
Well, so let me tell you, every Caribbean leader has a right to be anywhere in the Caribbean. We are people, free people. We are now CARICOM. I can now go to any of the Caribbean countries and feel welcome. It's a free movement of people. Right now, you can even travel to and from a country via social security, even a driver's license in some respects. Caribbean integration is centered to everything that we do. But importantly, Mia is welcome. Mia is all welcome, but Mia now has to search her conscience to tell me that you are going close to the place we had Ross. That was, at least some people say, at least on the books, I know it was 19% of GDP.
That's 10 minutes away.
Yeah, 10 minutes away. I know it was 19% of GDP. But given all of the little fringe events that taking a wrong Ross, in terms of construction and so, when you add it up, really it could be about 30-35% of GDP. And we have lost that. Now, what are you coming to do? Celebrate the taking of Ross? Are you coming to mock us? Miss Mia Notley, re-examine your conscience. You're welcome in Dominica, just as many Dominicans are welcome to Barbados. But it cannot be you are coming to tell us how great it is to have Ross when we have lost Ross, when Ross is to give us contributions. I mean, just on Ross corporate responsibility alone, in terms of how they respond to giving back to the public. Over $19+ million have been spent in this respect, training Dominican students in medicine, at least to have a medical degree. That amounted to about $14 million. So when you look at the expenditure of Ross with respect to that, you check, and by the way, 400 persons, Dominicans were employed at Ross, including faculty staff and other staff. So that's a great loss for our country. Look at Portsmouth, a ghost town, and then you are putting up posters with you and me and Motley to do what? Dominicans, labor rights, just boycott that thing. Just boycott that thing. Because what you're endorsing that gross disrespect on your back when you actually go to the rallies. You are actually endorsing that the government should continue to say they'll rent your house or borrow your house or put you in a house without titles. You're actually endorsing the government not giving you upward mobility and opportunities in your workplace. You're endorsing for the hard taxes that are to come. So when you give support to this government, you're actually telling them, look, it is right to do what you are doing. But if one time in your life you can boycott something, it's next week Sunday the 1st. Just do not go around labor. Leave labor on their music and let them fly their kite. Just leave labor in peace, because really that's too much injustice for a country. The people are tired. We cannot take more.
All right,
God help us.
Somebody's asking the question, Matt, please ask the people of Portsmouth, in particular, and Dominica at large, whether me and Motley, who stole the Ross University, should be invited to Dominica to rub salt in the wound of Dominicans. Can you imagine what happened if Dominica took Cable Campus or the UWI Cable Campus from Barbados and relocated to Roso? I used to have some respect for Mia, but after learning of her underhanded move, a way in which she and Hackney Henry undermined the economy of Dominica, stealing bread from the mouth of the people, I now realize that she's all talk. I'm full of it. That's what's up.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair comment. I respect the opinions of others. But Matt, is Mia Motley to be blamed? Maybe not, but yeah, that. Similarly, after Hurricane Maria, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, the Honorable Right, Mr. Ralph Gonzalez, called the Prime Minister of Dominica. That was played, I think you must get it again. And he said, look, there seems to have been a shift, Mr. Prime Minister. We respect your country is devastated by Hurricane Maria, fair enough. But he got wind that there's going to be a shift for students at all saints to come into St. Vincent. He brought that to the attention of the Prime Minister. What was the response of the Prime Minister? You can go ahead, man. We have Ross. Where's Ross? Where's Ross? And yet we don't have Ross, and we still have a reduced number of students from All Saints University. That is gross irresponsibility of a leader of a country, and we have had enough. It's time to move on, Mr. Prime Minister. You better resign, or the people will resign you.
Hello on the telephone. More telephone calls, but we have to wrap up in a little while, though. Hello, yes?
Yes, Matt.
Yes, sir.
That famous saying that Soso has there. Are we regressing now? However, say it for me, Soso, let me hear it.
So somebody wants to say, are you regressing or?
Progressing.
Progressing.
We are regressing.
We are regressing because the Prime Minister cannot even take out our garbage. And is there anything conclusive about when the garbage trucks are going to be here, Matt?
I heard you got a dump truck the other day compared to what Antigua got, about 10 rubbish trucks. So
that's volunteer work, Matt. We're talking about some serious garbage trucks to keep the country clean so that the population of the rats go. It's a health issue. This is a health issue. Meantime, Mr. Skerritt is building himself mansions, and we are suffering. We are put in the mouth of leptospirosis. He cannot take out the garbage. He should go out with the garbage.
All right, caller, thank you. More telephone calls coming at this time. Let's see if we can engage the overseas line. The people have been trying there. Are you there, caller?
Hello.
Yes, hello. Finally.
Bonjour. So.
Sir, how are you? How have you been?
Ça va.
For some reason, we're not connecting there. Sorry about that. You'll have to try again. On the telephone, yes?
Matt, so
yes.
Can you tell me, Mr. Titus Francis of Public Works, is he going to apologize to the constituents of Roso and to our parliamentarian, Madam Melissa Skerritt? They gave him a job at Public Works to prepare the tennis court at the old grotto ground. Did you hear the highlight of the Prime Minister's press briefing this morning? He turned the tennis court into a gravel court that he did not know that a tennis hard court supposed to be extremely smooth. The other day he wanted the Public Service Union to apologize to him. Mr. Titus Francis, are you going to abolish Public Works for that mortal sin you created? Why did you do that to the hard court at the grounds of the old Grotto home? Parliamentarian Melissa should really pull up your socks and fix you up for that. Have a blessed day, guys.
Have a blessed day, Peter.
So yes, I heard the Prime Minister talking about this hard court, and the work was poorly done. And I don't know, in the absence of planning, you feel short. One fall short of doing good work, but probably at the time it lacked supervision. I don't know what was their mixture content like. If they have a ratio of XYZ to put, I don't know, but it tells you how money is just going down the drain. And probably the caller is correct. If people are not performing like the government, they are not performing. They need to go. And I'm not always putting the big stick there. This needs to be assessed. This needs to be evaluated. And probably if something went wrong based on the fault of somebody, then somebody should pay back. But let me just say too, that when I heard how the power of Roso, got the Olympic Committee or the Dominican Olympic Committee to at least have on a side $120,000 to put into that High Street project. Because they said it and they mentioned it at the annual general meeting that they want to. It is good, but remember the track record of this government is not to handle money. If you are giving this government that sizable amount of money, that sizable quantum of money, you should actually give it to them in phased disbursement. This government is unable to handle money in full. So yes, while I agree that some help is needed, and that financially you all are putting up some money there, but at least you should ensure that you do phased disbursement of the funds, and to ensure that you achieve certain milestone before the next disbursement is done.
All right, let's see. I want to rewind the tape to the very beginning. I should have asked you that question from the very start, but it came to me very early. But I thought it was more appropriate to ask at the end there. Ask Glenroy Coffee for his opinion on how the current Representative of Roso, Melissa Skerridge, secured that seat. Can you talk about that?
Well, you see, at the end of the exercise, I don't want the issue to be about Melissa. She is the power rep of Roso, and I was directing my comments based on the failed policies of the government.
Okay.
I personally do not have any personal thing if any power rep, not prime minister, nor ministers of government, whether present or past. What I will say is that the government policies really they fell short of meeting the needs of the people. And I will say that. As to voting, I can tell you straight, not everything that you have to say on radio. And by the way, it's the first time I'm going to take a backseat on that response. I will do everything in my power and to ensure that the Roso people bring it home. All I know is that they are now measuring failure, and what the people of Roso they are looking forward to is success. So at the end of the exercise, we know what has transpired. In reality, one would say, but she's the power rep. Of course, I respect that. But let us say something now. Are you satisfied? We are regressing. So I don't think you want more regression. You want progression. Let's choose. Person who brought you regression and a person who is opting to bring you progression. I believe that is vested right in Glenroy Coffee.
Great answer there. Well, it's the what? 3:18 in the afternoon. We have 12 more minutes and we wrap it up here with Glenroy Coffee. Yes, hello.
Hello, good day.
Good day, sir.
If you have a country where a government remove a university college from a country, give it to another country, and that same person that received that college send down soldiers and shoot out a village, and I talk about respect. Those two people should be disrespected. They should never even be part of Dominica. They should never be in Dominica at all. That is total disrespect for people of Dominica. To take our university out of our country and then to come and shoot down our village on the day of an election. That is wickedness. That is very wickedness. These people they should be finished with.
All right, caller, thank you very much again. Your choice to go or not to go, right?
Good.
All right, let's see if we can sing Matt. There's a lot more questions coming in, but let's see if we can play that voice note quickly. We don't have too much time, about 11 minutes. Hello? Yes,
Matt, we in Dominica, we need to stop blame me and Motley for Ross going to Barbados. We lost Ross because of the incompetency of this government. Ross has been in Dominica for over 40 years, and there should have been no reason why Ross would have left or should have left, or why the government should have allowed Ross to leave. But they were too busy trying to buy over MPs of the UWP to have them cross the floor.
I don't know what's going on there. Sorry about that. But well, let's take a phone call there. Hello, talk to me. Yes?
Yeah, good afternoon, Matt.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
And good afternoon, Soso.
Hey, good afternoon to you, my brother.
I don't know. Labour Party is scared of. I mean, they've done so much wrong in the country. I mean, everything is wrong. They're scared. I just went on to Portsmouth a while ago. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Portsmouth is totally red. Every single post in Portsmouth have a red flag on it. Like there's an election. I don't know what. I mean, if they're having something in Dublin, Portsmouth is Labour. 99% of people in Portsmouth are Labour. Why have they got to put Portsmouth in red? It's a total shame. I'm just calling to ask also whether he would know what they're scared of, because this red. I mean, it's totally red. I mean, I'm going on Portsmouth and I'm blinking. So maybe Soso can tell us what the Labour Party are afraid of. All right, bye-bye.
Except that one man can put up red things, I mean, redding up the place doesn't mean, I mean, people have to show. And the Portsmouth people, this is a challenge for you. You have lost Rust. You have lost part of your economy. The socio-economic situation in your city right now is just that bad. Some of you are unable to pay your bills. And so you have to choose now whether or not you're going to endorse the government's rally or not. And by allowing the government to bring much needed attention to your community and the surrounding communities, I think the best interest you have at hand right now is to boycott. You have the ball in your court. Boycott.
Another telephone call. Are you there, caller? Yes?
So blessings to you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Boy, it was deliberating. I WhatsApp him and he tell me, don't worry, I blocked him. You can never talk to Soso today, but I use a device and I get through. But I call it now and the man they blocked him with Soso. I want to tell you, my brethren, even if they can have no creative and innovative ideas, these criminals are traveling the world. They're seeing things everywhere, Soso. So when you talk about all the great ideas, let me commend you, my brethren, and celebrity status. You're not too die calling us also. Oh dear. Anyway, so what's in it for me? Everything this criminal's doing is what's in it for me. And that's what it is, These guys, with the insatiable excesses, they can't see the collective where the people need to progress. First of all, the psychology of building new apartments with your money and hold you hostage because you cannot lay claim to it because you have no certificate of title. That is a psychological warfare, deliberate and systematic impoverishment to make the place unlivable, unbearable, unprosperable, if that's that term. So you run off, and me and the Chinese will live happily ever after. But so I'm glad you pick it up. I had so much things to say, but let me just abbreviate. Reparation is not just for those who committed the crimes, but those who inherited the wealth and the riches of those who committed the crime. I wonder what your children will pay. Population. Have a blessed day, sir.
Have a blessed day. It's
reparation. Yeah.
All right. So let's move to, of course, we're talking now the United Workers Party. What do you think is the answer? It's clear that the election is in the air, and someday soon, maybe later this year, early next year, we may see elections. What is the answer going for?
Well, let me say the political leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, is best suited to respond to this holistically. But I do know that preparations have been made, and we are actually, preparing in an event there is an election. What I do want to say before that is that there's enough time. Elections are constitutionally due in 2027, and what we learn from the passage of the new bills is that, for sure, based on the the Registration of Electors Act, where we have to get the ID cards, cleansing of the list, and the reconfirmation and continued new registration. The Prime Minister is on record stating that these things will be done before the next general elections. We've seen just a week ago they went to Parliament. And so we went to take a loan, and I understand between $6 to $8 million will be earmarked for just doing that. How ethical it would be now to call an election? It's not that anybody is saying, wow, what the Constitution states. The ethical part of it, because you're on record. And so we have enough time to put our house in order, to do the reform that is needed to get us going. So by and large, I believe we are making preparations. We cannot tell you everything that we do, but I do know for those caretakers who are actually manning their respective constituencies, they are doing what is needed to be done. And we are hoping that by the time the exercise of electoral reform would be fulfilled, that we would have fulfilled our desire to participate and to win every constituency so that we can bring restoration to the Dominican people and to bring a better quality of life for the people of Dominica. Rest assured, we are getting ready. Rest assured, we are getting ready. Because I know when the political leader will be invited here in studios, he will tell you more of what is happening. But I can tell you, for what I know is that it's not, you've heard the story about the hen. When the hen lays its egg, what happened? It crows, it's called, the cock crows, if everybody crowing and then everybody knows already, and you hear that, Matt. So that means an egg.
Yes.
An egg is located somewhere. But when the fish does the same, nothing is being said. There's no alarm. There is no signal. So that's what we do. We are like hoodans. We do what we have to do. So that's why I can leave you with that.
All right, so I just want to play. I just want to play something there that I guess I missed it, but I'm gonna really try because I heard the Prime Minister saying there are many mansions in this.
Oh, well, I heard that statement.
You heard that?
Yeah, I heard a lot. Yeah.
That didn't bother you at all. No?
That didn't bother me.
Your leader is solid.
That didn't bother me, and I know my leader is solid because you know why my leader is solid. Remember, you're talking about a renowned economist, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, who has done a lot of work around Dominica. And who has done a lot of work in the region and the wider region internationally. This man worked with IMF. You can imagine a man who worked with the IMF knows what to do. You can imagine a man who, in fact, you heard of South Sudan results the other day. One of the most flamboyant economies now running, fastest growth. He was over there, Yes. You have to bring that to the attention of the people. But the Prime Minister failed to answer a question that one of the journalists asked. You talk about your door is open for Dr. Fontaine, but you didn't say why you would want Dr. Fontaine. You know why you didn't say it? He would not answer that question. Because he knows well, if he answers that question, Dr. Fontaine is suitable where he is right now to get a new mandate from the people of Dominica to run this country and be successful. He failed to tell the people why he would have won Dr. Fontaine on his team. But Dr. Fontaine has a better plan for Dominica. Dr. Fontaine, the United Workers' Party leader, will get, he's been crossing party lines. He's a man who people believe in. A number of liberal rights say, look, this is the man we want. Dominicans are gravitating towards the principles and the ideologies of what Dr. Fontaine thinks is the best thing to restore this economy. They believe in persons who have done well for other countries, and they have no doubt that Dr. Fontaine will, in fact, do even better for his country. Just 70,000 people, and you cannot fix this country with all of these resources. I can tell you, the best thing right now for Dominicans is to invest their time in removing that Labour Party out, get new blood, get new people on board, get the United Workers' Party in, help us to help you, so that when you would evaluate your life over the period that we have been in as a government, then you'll be able to distinguish. You have moved from point A to point B. As we speak, a number of persons who have supported the government and still do cannot give you an account of the government stewardship, cannot give you an account of their stewardship, cannot give you an account of what they have achieved. We as a party, most of the party members, or all of the party members, have done what we had to do for ourselves and our families. We now have to take on the mantle to restore this country. So we are not going to look for ourselves. Right now is the people's interest, people's country. And I will say finally that if the power of Roso is very sincere to the people of Dominica, she should tell the people of Roso how much does her office pay? How much does she pay for rental of that parliamentary representative office on Hillsborough Street? I'm hearing something like 3,500. Matt, I've asked the question: are we regressing or we progressing? A lot of persons have said unanimously that we are regressing. I want to support that. Matt, in the past, government operations used to be in government place. Today, it is alleged that you have many persons who are own land in Roso Central, but most of government operations are conducted in the very building that they build in Roso Central. That is sucking up from the purse of government. Instead, you could tell government expenditure. You're expanding government expenditure. Are we regressing or are we progressing? And Mrs. Skerritt, that is a challenge to you, Mrs. Merida Popon Skerritt. I will only have respect for you if you can tell the people how much rent do you pay for that office that you operate on Hillsborough Street. Just be honest with the people of Dominica and I'll have respect for you. Failure to do so, I will continue to say that you are part of the problem by that office which has been rented for such large amount of money, but you better confirm it. If you are so concerned about the welfare of Dominicans and concerned about curtailing Dominicans and government's expenditure, why would be an office be renting for $3,500? Come better than that. We are regressing. We are not progressing.
I was waiting for my friend Peter Prosper to call to defend his father.
Well, I have no issues. I have no qualms, as they would say, with Peter Prosper. And my good friend. I mean, when he has his program, he must listen. What he should have done, before, he should have played the recording for the people to hear what I was saying, and then they would make the assessment of it. But instead, they do their thing. I have no problem with Peter Prosper. But I send a message for Peter Prosper. If I was an officer of a medical storeroom, whether it's in the private sector or in the public sector, I would not open a pharmacy. You get the message?
Dominica, we've got to go. So Glenroy Coffee. It was a pleasure, brother. Come back sometime soon, okay?
Thank you very much.
So, Mr. PM, what's going on? You know we try to set it down. You created an illusion, an imagination of a bright, prosperous, wealthy nation. Some call you a mama guy, I call you a heartbreaker and a dream killer. We had plenty hope, but now we can't cope. You're a dream killer. Disregard of mental health while you be seeking in wealth. You're a dream killer. From the NEP, working for small money. You're a dream killer. You present a lot of things, we believe in you. Now our life passing by, nothing coming through. There's a lot of promises, fulfilling a few. There is big celebration for us to praise you. Hey, dream. Our children have a dream. So many sent overseas to study, especially those who support the party. Them workers were blue back, that their parents gave you the X. But every time Felicia come on Facebook Live, the things she exposing make me want to cry. I wonder why you acting so sly and how my kids getting by. They say a promise is a comfort to a fool. Some kind of graduate, you don't pay the school. All we hear is excuses and more promises. while the students down on their knees. Some call you a big trickster, I call you a heartbreaker and a dream killer. We had plenty hope, but now we can't cope. You're a dream killer. Disregard of mental health while you busy getting well. You're a dream killer. Some in NEP, working for small money. You're a dream killer. You present a lot of things, we believed in you. Now our life passing by, nothing coming through. It's so embarrassing while you there smiling. There's that grumbling, she call it within. Hey, oh, you feel it, you had a dream. With hard work and determination, we can reach our destination through access to capital, education, and mentorship. But consider yourself as a young man, stuck in the cycle of stagnation, where corruption creates limitation and overwhelming sense of frustration. Every day he faces the harsh reality. He cannot provide for his family, losing his dignity and his sanity while still waiting for his opportunity. Some call you a blood sucker, I call you a heartbreaker and a dream killer. We had plenty hope, but now we can't cope. You're a dream killer. Disregard of mental health while you busy getting well. You're a dream killer. Some in NEP, working for small money. You're a dream killer. You present a lot of things, we believed in you. Now our life passing by, nothing coming through. Who can run will run, who cannot will stay. Waiting for election day to get to oh, we have a dream. Oh, we have a dream.
I walk, people stop me and talk, telling me scrunty boy you made him drop. We have a lot of things happening here in this country. We need somebody to address them seriously. We used to depend on your bricks and hurricane, and sing on for people's pain. But since you guys say you stepping out of the Kaiser ring, we realize that what is suffering. So now I'm revealing my opinion. I decide to step back in the competition. I won't do like them so-called politicians run and study when they know lose elections. I will expose all sorts of corruption, but there's been past or present administration. When they do right, I will stand up on the side. No longer they go mess with Dominican's pride. I examine myself and I put it right. That is why I'm here on this stage tonight. This is the sunrise, the country fell asleep. Tell them I come from, and up to now the one can't reach up to it. Tell them better make the job we taking them seriously. Giving them the mandate to run our country. They take the opposition leader must be crazy, calling for the result of the inquiry. Sagochi must as if I were Chepakapemal. It seems like the man have S for Malpapai. Talk him about DJ for Brucey, but Dominicans want the result of the autopsy. In this country we have problems in the cabinet. That is why you get the result just there. Charlie playing games in the coalition. From what will be cautioned by the Calypsonians, cause we are the mouthpiece of this nation. Talking to Peru, who seem real upset. He says continuous and he had nothing yet. Scott, I hear a lot of guitar circling around. I won't allow that to bring my government down. Never. Who want to come with their rules and regulations? Strong that tell them to leave their things for London. We are a peaceful and God-fearing nation. We ain't want no man here marrying man. Never. One that's grunty. We ain't want no Sodom and Gomorrah. We give license to no chef selling man burger. TV done damage, show up its morale. We can't give lights to homosexual. We really gêné, we really sorry, but Mundo mix up Europa and pushing. To this country, I owe a responsibility, and I will do it with the best of my ability. If any man in here have a set preference, tell them I say exercise, damn common sense. As I don't have our duty to perform, tell them I have come to inform and educate this person. This country is in stagnation. I have come because of the James administration. This government is one of transparency, one with plans to boost the economy. Look at the state of the banana industry, from Asamade to UWP. They promise to give glory in a ministry as part of a deal with the DLP. They're overtaking Edison on the attack. Sabrebu in sleeps waiting for a catch. This country is mine and ours to build. So let us raise our voice from the higher field. Healing this nation is my people's will. It has some utility companies in this country. For people like me and you, they have no sympathy. The service they give is inadequate, but always have excuses for the high rate. Me tax been in fast money running high. You never listen to when the man but like we did to Dublin, our scope was any time it rains dirty water just flow. Last, We get the east from cable and wireless. I think they to cut some stress and for people's stress. Mapping you welcome you in the competing ring, but your reception, it needs improving. It encourages foreign cultural invasion, corrupting the minds of this young generation. They are the one who are this country's future. Educate them some about Dominica's culture. Instead you playing all them rap songs on the ET. Play them something that can influence them wisely. Play more local programs on your TV show. May help the youth what direction to go. Teacher get you will take precaution. Must I say bring up momentum. No longer tables control the monopoly, but in the fact that when you came with a great victory, we supporting you as a local company. Treat us with respect and give us what we think you will. Every time a local program is going on, you put it up and playing rap from the American. We need to see more of our own. Remember charity begins at home. So play us something from the King Hunty. Tell them for the youth, them can't take pattern on me as a role model in this country. This country boy, the fatherland still love you. We hope to see you in the final. God bless you. Oh God. You know, friends in life, you need someone close to you, someone you can talk to when you're faced with problems. And those fellas in the name of October, or we can hunt and grace, I consider them to be my friends. Oh, yeah. Oh, la, da, da, da. Oh, ah. Big confusion in the courthouse. Prosecutor raising the voice. The accused disgruntled for breaking into Matilda's house. So I had no attorney. I pleaded not guilty. That's all they had for guide. So King friends to give evidence on me. They asked them all kind of funny questions, have them under cross-examination. Because the prosecutor want to see me up in stock farm. Making friends spoke with so tired, cause the charges read they were unfair. Realizing it is a plot, it's going to down in the gutter. First witness they call King Observer, and asking how well he know the grunter. Observer said that's my friend, my honor. I know him well, that man is my good friend. Next witness they call King Hurricane, and the same question they put to him again. Hurricane said that's my friend, your honor. He's an upright man, that man is my good friend. You know, the judge went a little further, so she called on the King Hunter. Hunter said that's my friend, your honor. I know him well. Hunter is my good friend. What? But when they call on Bronca John the Briggs, prosecutor say my honor, arrest my case. Because all them boys, for them, they are his fucking friends. It's so fucking friends, that's my boy. I can't believe that. I can't believe it. You know, you want to sentence me, you know? You have been changed. Oh, man. What I say to myself, once I talk the truth, and my friends stood up with me, I must be free. Yeah. La da di di da 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 da. La da da. It was on a sad Tuesday morning when I appeared before Judge Bernardine. People flock around the court to see what was happening. But I kept on praying, because I knew the Almighty was listening, and once I call upon His name, He'll break all barriers and chains. The TV and the radio station forced to jump on the bandwagon. Instantly my song will got it to reach #1. While my fans were lamenting, some news reporters were rejoicing. They claimed to have nothing, so they were out there jubilating. Man like a lie, through sweetness they call King October. And October answered his question with flair. He said, that's my friend, your honor. Boy, that man is my good, good friend. Oi. Next witness they call King Hurricane, and the same question they put to him again. Hurricane smile and say, my friend, he's an upright man. That man is a good, good friend. You know, the judge went a little further, so she called on the King Hunter. Hunter said, that's my friend, your honor. I know him well. Hunter is my